My name is Stuart Keithley, Councillor Stuart Keithley. I shall be chairing the meeting tonight. We'll get started. The first thing is a little bit of housekeeping we always cover. There's no fire alarm tonight, so if the fire bell goes, we go back out reception and meet over in the car park of the Windmill pub. Just to remind everybody, because I see there's a lot of members of the public here, this is a meeting held in public. It's not a public meeting. So the only people that are entitled to speak are the committee members and people that have registered to speak. We've got quite a few people registered to speak. I've noticed about 7. So just a word on speaking. As you can hopefully hear me quite well, I've got quite a loud voice. Please, members, or those coming up to speak, can you speak into the microphones clearly? The meetings are streamed live and they're also recorded, so you can watch them later on. So if you are not clear when you're speaking, people can't hear what you're saying. So thank you for that. I think now I can introduce the top table. And on the right, on my right, is Olivia Quinn. Olivia's with Democratic Services. Next to me is Sue Mullins. Sue's our legal advisor tonight. On my left, Richard Gardner is our head planner. And the case officer dealing with both the applications tonight is Louise Coleman. And the gentleman on the end is Steve Harrison. And Steve has kindly given up his evening to offer technical advice. Steve is in the Warwickshire County Council Highways team, so he's here to answer specific technical queries. Okay, I think that's it. Members, I wanted to draw your attention to the update sheet, which you should have in front of you, because there are quite a few updates. And since quite a few of these relate to the first item on the agenda, I would like to just draw your attention to that update sheet. I'd like to give you 1 or 2 minutes to have a look at those issues. There is some information from WCC Highways on maintenance of hard standing. There's something from SDC Housing. There's something relating to the length of time potentially for the submission of reserved matters. There is something on Severn Trent. Yeah, I think that's it. There's also a condition revision as well, bullet point 1. So if you'd have a little look at those, if you've not, let me know when you're happy to proceed, and I shall do that. Okay, so hopefully you've all had a chance to have a look through that. So we'll move on to the agenda. So first of all, it's apologies for absence. Olivia, please.
Chair, we have apologies from Councillors Adam, Harding and Henry-Seraphin.
Thank you. Councillor Padgham, have you heard from Councillor Padgham? Okay, thank you. Second item is disclosures of interest. Members, does anybody wish to disclose interest? So I'll start with Councillor Ballinger.
Thank you, Chair. In relation to item 4, I received an email from somebody called Ruth Bagley. Just for clarity, it's item 24-0314-out, and the subject was matters of public health and safety.
Okay, so I think that might be an email that others have received. Yes? Okay, in which case we can declare that we've received that. I did. I didn't have a chance to look at it in detail. Any others? So, Councillor Scorer.
Thank you, Chair. Planning application 24/03143 3/OUT. I'm the ward member, but I've made no representation. Also, I'm a parish councillor as well at Kyneton, and during the parish council meetings, when this has been discussed on the agenda, I've removed myself from the meeting, and I come to the meeting with a clear and open mind.
Thank you, Councillor Scorer. Councillor Eden?
Thank you, Chair. The same application. I've also received, I believe, 2 communications today from Kyneton Parish Council via email.
Yeah, okay, I think that's the same for all of us, Councillor Eden. And I would like to also disclose that myself and Councillor Fleming, Councillor Parry and Councillor Harvey undertook a site visit with the case officer on Monday this week. I think you know that, but I shall disclose that for everybody else's benefit. Thank you. So is that it? Thank you very much. Right, item 3 on the agenda is the minutes of the meeting on the 3rd of December, which is in your pack. Are you all happy with those minutes and that we can approve those? Quick show of hands for approval of those. I think that looks like it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Which brings us on to the next item of the agenda and the meat of tonight, the planning applications. And the first application is application 2403143. It's an outline application, land east of Lighthorn Road, Kyneton, and it's for the erection of up to 70 dwellings, infrastructure, landscape, biodiversity, all matters reserved except for access from Lighthorn Road. And the presenting officer is Louise Coleman. So Louise, if you'd like to take members through the application, please.
Thank you, Chair. The application site is identified by the black dot on the map and is located on the northern edge of Kyneton Village. The application site is identified by the site edged in red and adjoins the built-up area boundary of Kyneton Village, which is a main rural centre. The site is identified in the Kyneton Neighbourhood Development Plan as the Kyneton Neighbourhood Plan as a safeguarded site for residential development under policy H6B. The site comprises of approximately 3.72 hectares of agricultural land and is bound by existing hedgerows and mature trees. A substantial woodland belt is located along the eastern boundary of the site, and the site comprises of 2 land parcels, comprises of a northern land parcel and 2 southern land parcels. The southern land parcels are separated with a ditch and vegetation, and a drainage ditch is located within the southern parcel. Kyneton Conservation Area is identified by the pink line on the plan and is approximately 50 metres from the southern land parcel. The site doesn't contain any public footpaths or any permissive paths. It comprises of agricultural land, and its agricultural land also lies to the north and east. A disused railway line runs to the south with residential properties beyond, and Lighthorn Road abuts the western boundary. The proposal is for outline application for the erection of up to 70 dwellings with associated infrastructure, landscape and biodiversity enhancements. All matters are reserved except for access, which is proposed from Lighthorn Road. The application site has been supported with a parameters plan, which you can see on screen, which identifies the location of the proposed new access points identified in pink. The area of housing is confined to the northern land parcel, which is shaded in cream on the plan. This encompasses approximately 1.91 hectares of the total site area and would result in a density of approximately 37 dwellings per hectare. Areas of public open space and landscaping are shaded in green, and an ecological enhancement area is identified in yellow in the southeastern corner of the site. A separate pedestrian and cycle access into the site is identified by the yellow arrow. A more detailed framework plan has also been submitted, which identifies the provision of a children's equipped area of play in the northeastern corner of the site, the provision of a pedestrian and cycle route around the periphery of the site, and also the provision of an attenuation basin within the southern corner of the southern land parcel. Access to the site will be provided by a new priority T-junction on the Lighthorn Road, as depicted in this plan here. The road is proposed to be 5.5 metres in width with 2 metre wide footpaths either side. A separate 3 metre wide pedestrian and cycle access is proposed from this location here and will run along the western boundary of the site, but within the site itself, which will enable the Lighthorn Road to retain its rural character and improve pedestrian and cycle safety. Further road improvements are also proposed, including enhancements to the existing footway provision, which are shown along here, along the eastern side of the Lighthorn Road, with increasing the widths of footpaths where possible to between 1.5 to 2 metres in width. New crossing points, which you actually can see here, are also proposed with drop curb crossing points and tactile paving to link the new cycle and pedestrian route across the road on into the adjoining Miller Home green footpath. You can then access, with that estate is known as Admiral Cohen Way and lies to the southwest of the site. New traffic signals are also proposed as part of the application. They are shown in this area here and here, either side of a disused railway, there's a railway cutting underneath, and this is the railway bridge within this vicinity here. It's proposed to also widen the footpath along the extent of the existing bridge to 2 metres along this entirety, as you can see. A new hard standing area is also proposed to enable vehicles maintaining the new traffic signal controlled shuttle operation that will enable the vehicles to be parked in this vicinity here. Members will note in the update sheet this position of the hard standing area will be required to be moved slightly because it does impinge upon an existing pumping station owned by Severn Trent. So there is a condition now controlling that, so it's relocated so it has no impact on that. New speed cushions are also proposed within the highway within Lighthorn Road, reducing traffic speeds. And also, in order to ensure the safe operation of the shuttle traffic signals, traffic regulation orders will be required to install double yellow lines on both approaches to the new signals. This is a plan now to help you orientate yourself. So north is this direction here, south being this direction. So this is the approximate location of the new access. As part of the proposals, there are improvements to the existing public footpath SD 104 proposed by the resurfacing of the path and additional lighting. There is an existing footpath as well that links the Lighthorn Road through into Fordington Place, and additional improvements are proposed with, again, additional lighting and cutting back of vegetation within that area. Finally, in addition, improvements are proposed along Southam Road and also Southam Street in terms of existing bus stops and in requiring enhancements within that area there. So turning now to photographs of the site. So this is showing the northern visibility splay into the site, and this is the southern splay. Ooh. Sorry, there we go. This is the area where I was referring to the new pedestrian and cycle route into the site, which will be 3 meters in width, and then link into the northern parcel of the development. And this is where the new tactile paving is going to go, with a crossing in order to link into the green path that links into the Miller Home development. This is the northern field parcel. So this is where the housing would be located. And this is the southern parcel. I've got some orientation arrows here to assist you in terms of where the photographs have been taken. So this is looking back at the properties that back onto the southern land parcel from Lighthorn Road. This is looking towards the southern land parcel, the southern boundary where the railway cutting is. And again, this you can see the houses beyond here along the southern parcel. And then this is a view looking towards the ecological enhancement zone, so that is located behind this row of trees, which are proposed to be retained. And then this is looking up along the eastern boundary. This building here is proposed to be removed. And this is the ecological enhancement area in the southeastern corner of the site. Now, these are some photographs of the section of Lighthorn Road where the properties join onto Lighthorn Road here. So this is where the footpath improvements will be occurring. And this is looking back towards the pedestrian and cycle link. And then this is the pumping station, which we're going to be ensuring that there isn't any hard standing area now going to be located within the vicinity of this zone here. This is the existing railway bridge, so I'm looking towards along Lighthorn Road, looking towards Southam Street. This is going over the bridge where the footway is going to be widened by 2 meters, and then you carry on round, and Southam Street is beyond. And then this is Southam Street looking back. So this is coming from Southam Street, looking on to Lighthorn Road here, and looking back. There is a new tactile crossing also proposed within this area here, which adjoins Palmer's Lees development, which will improve the pedestrian crossings in order to get onto Fordington Place as well. And in terms of updates, obviously members are aware of the numerous updates which have been detailed. There are 2 key highlights, which is the fact that the Housing Enabling Officer has now removed his objection, subject to the completion of a Section 106 to secure the delivery of 35% affordable housing within the site, and the imposition of a condition requiring the approval of details of the range, mix and type of housing prior to any reserved matters application. All of that is already covered in the report. And so in terms of a Section 106 obligation and also condition. And also, following the publication of the committee report, Severn Trent provided additional comments raising objection to the development. However, these have now subsequently been overcome by the imposition of 2 Grampian conditions, which are detailed in the committee report. So they are no longer objecting. 3 conditions are proposed to be amended as detailed in the update sheet, and an additional condition number 54 added. So members, the recommendation is that subject to the completion of the section 106 agreement, planning permission is granted subject to the amended conditions listed in the update sheet and the addition in the section 106 agreement as listed again in the update sheet, and subject to the conditions listed on pages 33 to 36 of the report, that planning permission be granted. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Louise. Right, we have some people registered to speak on this, and I would like to call forward the first speakers from the Kyneton Parish Council. It's Councillors Ken Pridis and Councillor David Gosling. If you'd like to come forward, councillors, good evening and thank you very much. Just straight in front of me there, yeah, that's fine. And I have on here a note just to say that Councillor Gosling's here to help with answering questions, and Councillor Pridis is going to do the speaking. Would that be right? Okay, super. Okay, thank you for that. So because we have quite a lot of speakers, there is a time limit on you, which is 3 minutes. So I shall give you a little sort of heads up as you approach 2.5, just to keep you roughly on track. So whenever you want, have you got any material that you sent in to share? So let's get that organised first. Yeah. Right. Let's just see what Louise has got. Would they have come to you or through to Olivia? Just hold on a second while we get that sorted. I beg your pardon?
They did confirm receipt of the
Yeah,
photographs.
okay. It's one of those talk amongst yourselves moments, isn't it? Do you have a full house at Kyneton on the parish council?
Yes, we've got a good representation of councillors. Yes, we're very
good.
lucky.
Right.
An expanding village, so
Yeah. And monthly meetings?
yes, monthly meetings, yes.
Excellent.
And some EGMs as well, just for the fun of
And
it.
some intermediate ones?
Yeah. But no, we have a good representation. We have a lot of members of the public attend, so that's quite
That is
helpful.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
some
helpful.
parish councils are quite quiet, aren't they?
Yeah. So we're quite active, yes.
There is a parish forum coming up. Have you been invited? To see. There we go. How's that? Right, okay, so hopefully we're ready to go. So over to you when you're ready. That's super, thank you.
Right, first of all, thank you, Chair and Councillors, for this opportunity to put forward our representation in relation to this application. We, the Parish Council, have multiple issues relating to this application, including deep concerns with highway issues, road safety and flooding. We do not believe that all of the relevant issues have been addressed, and we are requesting a decision to defer this decision until all facts are reviewed by the authority. However, the Parish Council come with a potential solution to one of the difficult issues that this existing plan would create in Kyneton. The site under consideration was included in the neighbourhood plan along with a second adjacent plot as reserved sites, Site A, which is on the east. Okay. Site A on the main route is on a main route into the village from Gaydon and the M40 and has easy access from an established roundabout. Could you show the roundabout one, please? Thank you. We fully understand that both sites will eventually be developed and could provide over 200 homes to alleviate the current housing shortage in the council's area. The major concern relates to access being considered with this application. The access requested is from a narrow, ungritted country road with a narrow Victorian railway bridge giving a route into the village. The bridge itself is old and subject to flooding. It is totally unsuitable for heavy construction vehicles. The applicant has proposed traffic lights on this very narrow bridge, which in itself would cause additional congestion issues to the village. There is a clear and obvious solution to this. Access to the site under consideration should be achieved via the second site, Site A, from this roundabout, which is already there and has a fourth arm available, as a much more suitable entry from this roundabout on the southern road, which would avoid the use of the totally unsuitable Lighthorn Road with its narrow bridge. The managing director of the developers of the second site, Cora Homes, wrote to the planning officer on the 7th of November 2025, confirming this alternative access and requesting a deferment of the decision until such time as they could submit their application. Today, I've had further discussions with Matt Westwood, the managing director of Cora Homes, to clarify the current status, and they have confirmed they wish to engage with both Richborough and ourselves to provide a through road to both sites, therefore eliminating the necessity of the totally unsuitable Lighthorn Road. They have also confirmed that their application is imminent, with a pre-app being submitted next month, followed swiftly by a full outline application.
Good, you've got 30 seconds left.
Okay, I'm skipping the Severn Trent bit now because you've solved it.
Okay.
We respectfully request a deferment of this decision until Cora Homes have submitted their application and you are all fully aware of the relevant facts. We believe you are being asked to make a decision without the full knowledge of all the relevant issues. Thank you, Chair.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor. Right, okay, members, here's an opportunity to ask questions of the councillors. From Kyneton, Councillor Parry.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, councillors. I wonder whether you can confirm that at present, are there any traffic lights in the village of Kyneton?
I can confirm there are none apart from when there are road repairs, things like that.
Thank you. I have a quick question. You mentioned that the old railway bridge was unsuitable for construction traffic. Is there a weight limit on that bridge, could you advise?
I'm sorry, do you know the rating of that bridge? Sorry.
Several years back, there was a sign by the side of the road that said 7.5 tonnes was the weight limit. That has been probably vandalised, but that particular number doesn't exist on the old diamond-shaped road sign anymore.
Okay, well, I can pick that up with highways, so thank you for that. Any further questions? Yes, Councillor Ballinger.
Can I just check, on the bridge itself, is there pedestrian access or is it just a road through? On the bridge itself, is there pedestrian access? Meaning, is there pathways on the bridge, or is it just a road?
There is an existing pavement that runs over it. The proposal is to widen that pavement to make it at least narrower than any reasonable sized pavement for pushing pushchairs up and down on it. To widen the pavement is why we're having 4 sets of traffic lights and a flashing sign to indicate when those traffic lights aren't working, to alert motorists that the traffic lights aren't working. That piece of pavement will then be constructed with a curb that's no more than 1 inch high, so that if the traffic lights stop, 2 vehicles will be able to pass each other on that bridge by mounting the pavement, which is there for pedestrian use. So in answer to your question, there is a pavement, it's totally inadequate, and it won't be particularly useful even when it's been enlarged.
Thank you for that. Councillor Ballinger, we've got the technical expert from the highways here, so you can explore the plans for that in a bit more detail. Councillor Parry, you had another question.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Sorry to come back with a supplementary. I'm right in thinking that Kyneton High School has expanded fairly extensively over the last 2 years. During a situation of drop-off and pick-up times, I'm thinking particularly from, well, actually both times, is there much congestion from the Lighthorn Road coming up to the T-junction on Southam Street? And can you advise a little bit further down into Southam Street, are there any difficulties in vehicles, if there's parked vehicles on the left-hand side of Southam Street, is there any difficulty in 2 cars passing? Because I just wonder whether there's any congestion caused that backs back onto Lighthorn at the junction during peak school pick-up and drop-off times.
Thank you, Councillor, for that question. It's a very important question. Yes, there is congestion, excuse me, and at school times the situation is absolutely chaotic. We have up to 16 coaches coming in and out of Kyneton each day to deliver pupils to the high school, which is at capacity, by the way, and that does cause problems. The traffic, if it actually backs back from the Lighthorn Road, does cause substantial problems on that 90-degree bend on Southam Street, and then that narrows. Before it gets any wider, that is a real pinch point. And certainly at busy times of the day, not only drop-off points for school, but at any other time of the day when you get any large vehicle or bus attempting that, it actually causes total chaos in the village.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Parry, could I ask that you direct that question when we have the opportunity to the Warwickshire County Council Highways technical specialist, because I know they've done a safety audit and they've got detailed data on the existing situation and also the situation that might be the case if this was to go ahead. Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Scorer.
Thank you. Mine's I've got 2 questions, if that's okay. One, has the Parish Council undertaken a traffic survey?
Yes, we did. In terms of how many years back, I can't really recall. It's probably about 4 years ago we did one at considerable expense to the community, and that, even without other developments that's come on stream since they did it, was forecasting that there would be gridlock in the middle of Kyneton by 2031. And here we have more development coming forward that will just add to that, as well as the organic growth in traffic in the village.
Thank you, Chair. And again, so what I'm just hearing is that you think this application is a sort of premature application, and my understanding you would be supportive of the application from the Southern Road if it would link into this application?
Yes, thank you for that question. Yes, we would. We live in the real world. We're realistic. We always have been in Kyneton. We know that the District Council and the officers are under extreme pressure because of the loss of the 5-year land supply. We fully understand that. We understand that these 2 sites, which have always been meant to be developed consecutively, could deliver over 200 homes to alleviate the problems that you have. And we would obviously understand when they are built. We just simply feel that this is the wrong method of entry and exit to those sites. And if it came off the roundabout, it will be developed into a reasonable site for Kyneton.
Okay, thank you. Further questions? In which case, I don't think there are any. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for coming along tonight to present to us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we have another speaker objecting to this proposal, and it's a neighbour, and it's Mrs. I'm assuming Ruth Bagley. Good evening, Mrs. Bagley. All right? Yes? Ruth will do. Thank you, Ruth. Okay, Ruth. So you've got 3 minutes to let us understand your concerns. So in a similar way, I shall give you a little nod when you get to 2 minutes 30.
Can I start with the first slide?
Have you got? Oh, sorry. Have you got some slides too?
Only 2.
So. Well, it's a question of whether we can find them, isn't it? However many there are. Ah, we've got them. Thank you. Okay, so whenever you're ready.
Thank you, councillors. The sewerage system serving Lighthorn Road has failed, demonstrated by the very frequent surcharge of raw sewage across a garden and into the railway cutting. Severn Trent have previously told residents that the pumping station on Lighthorn Road is inadequate for 15 homes and that the network downstream is at risk of failure. They're undertaking an assessment to determine what a further 70 houses will require. Waste is tankered away from the pumping station to reduce the surcharge, and they have stated that they need 24/7 access to the pumping station for several hours, sometimes weekly. You can see the position of the tanker at the moment, so some provision needs to be made there. I'd simply endorse what Severn Trent have said. Second slide, whilst the proposals may mitigate flooding on the site by reducing the runoff rate, they may, however, increase already dangerous flooding off-site. Surface water pours into the cutting across gardens through a culvert in the north abutment of the Lighthorn Bridge. Water ponds to 3 metres in 2 easily accessible areas of land adjoining the Willows and in the cutting at the Warwick Road. The County Council has told me that they cannot yet provide assurance that the proposals will not increase the flow through the bridge culvert and to dangerous areas. They have highlighted the diversion of water into the ditch course referred to on page 25 of your pack as one source of that uncertainty, and they have recommended a full connectivity survey to confirm the downstream connection to a registered watercourse. There is no connection to an open watercourse. Culverts have been blocked, and with no outlets, any increase through that culvert must increase flooding. There is visible evidence of water flowing out of the bridge structure, and the DFT body responsible opposes very forcefully any increase in flow through the bridge culvert. So we ask that the committee defers a decision on drainage until the county has undertaken both the connectivity and drainage surveys mentioned in the report across all the affected areas to demonstrate whether or not flooding will increase. I will endorse the comments of my colleagues from the Parish Council. The report at the moment does not appear to reflect peak traffic patterns, the sewage tanker, fuel deliveries, etc. And there is a fear that access to 20 houses will be routinely blocked, Kyneton gridlocked, and accidents increased. And we ask that a proper real-time survey is conducted and that the pedestrian traffic is routed along the proposed path to the Willows and the bridge left that's my time.
Yeah, no,
and the
no,
bridge
I've
left
forgotten
unchanged.
to give you a reminder.
So, in summary, there are substantial unanswered risks about the present proposals. We ask that you defer a decision pending other additional information.
Okay, thank you very much, Ruth, and thank you for putting your timer on as well. Members, do we have any questions for Ruth in respect of her concerns? Of course, yeah, Councillor
Thank you, Chair.
Scorer.
Thank you. Obviously, it's just a. Have you noticed the increase of traffic this last week because of the road to Wellesbourne closed? That's one question. If I can ask for another one afterwards.
Not only this week, today, exceptional amounts of traffic today, which would have gridlocked the bridge. And we have also, over the last 10, 15 years, noticed the notable increase of traffic rising from presumably other development, the development over at Lighthorn, the development of the Aston, the two, Aston, thank you, Aston Martin and Jaguar Land Rover. There's a lot more traffic.
Yeah, well, I would like to just comment. No, it's fine if you've got a follow-up. I just wanted to say that we have got Steve here. Whilst it's very important to listen to anecdotal evidence of traffic issues, then I know that there are some studies been done, but I'm not sure how current those are. Have you got a follow-up question? When we get the chance. Okay. So any further questions for Ruth? Yes, Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening. The issue for me, one of the issues you raise is sewage discharge. I'm trying to establish in my own mind whether you think there is not just one problem but two problems from where you sit. Is there a problem? I'll put words in your mouth. There is a problem with sewage. There is a problem with surface flooding, surface runoff water causing flooding. Are either of those true?
Ruth, could you pop your microphone on for us, please, so we can record? Yeah.
Thank you. The first slide showed sewage surcharging across a private garden. When the tanker is able to be there and pump out the pumping station, and it takes several hours to pump out the pumping station, that alleviates, not entirely, the frequency with which sewage pumps out across that garden. The sewage then flows into the cutting. So it contaminates the surface water which heavily flows through the cutting. So the problem with the sewage is massive frequent surcharging mitigated by a tanker parked exactly where it will be opposite a queue of traffic leading up to the lights. So some alternative provision needs to be made for that. In terms of the flooding, the water runoff from the fields as sort of behind the houses on Lighthorn Road partly goes into the cutting and partly goes into the ditch, which is recommended to be the rerouted flow of water. When it goes into the cutting, it goes all the way up to the Warwick Road but has no outlet. So it floods to depths of 3 metres, which stands around for a long time at the Warwick Road. It is possible to walk straight into the cutting at that point. When it goes through the culvert, through the bridge, it follows the bank above the cutting. It's actually an old, original rail drain, which is meant to divert the water away from the cutting and towards what is now the Morris Homes Willows land. Unfortunately, the historic culvert there has been blocked. That generates an enormous sort of acre area of flooding, again in the centre to depths of about 3 metres. And when it gets too full, it tops the bank, in part breaches the bank and flows back into the cutting. So you've got an area of 3 metres depth in one place and an area of 3 metres depth in another. The significance of the culvert is that although having spoken to the County Council, they confirmed that the collective runoff rate will be, or at least subject to further detail, will be as in the paper. They cannot confirm that a lot of that water won't go into the ditch, through the culvert, and into this problem area near the Morris Homes estate. So my fear it's very easy to see this. My fear is that with a residential area already of the Willows, where people again can walk straight into an area with 3-metre depth flooding, if that runoff is not at least maintained at the present dangerous level, we're going to have even more flooding and even more danger. In an ideal world, but not the remit of the Planning Committee, that runoff rate should be reduced. But at least there should be a demonstration that it should not be increased.
Okay.
And then the final point about that is the historic rail estate body who own and are responsible for maintenance of the bridge are absolutely adamant that they cannot afford to have any more water flowing through that culvert. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Ruth, for that answer. Do you have another question? I would just comment that we have an opportunity to ask the officers about the consultation responses from Severn Trent and also the Environment Agency in respect of flooding. So it's useful anecdotal information. I think, Ruth, I think that we've probably finished with you. So thank you very much indeed for coming along. Okay, our next speaker is Fiona Lee McQueen. Good evening. Fiona, is that okay? Good evening, welcome. And you are the agent for the developer, I understand, Fiona. And you have got 6 minutes to speak because that we have had 2 separate sessions for people objecting to your proposal. Can I just make sure that are we expecting to see any slides from you up here?
No, I haven't put any slides forward for today.
Right, okay. So it's over to you. Start when you like, Fiona, and we can ask you questions when you finish. I shall give you a 30-second warning as you approach your... Will you need all your 6 minutes?
I don't think so. I've timed it already, so hopefully.
Okay,
but let's
we'll see
how slowly I go through it.
Thank you very much. Okay, when you're ready.
So firstly, good evening, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. As already discussed, my name is Fiona, I'm from Turley, and I'm here representing Richborough in relation to their site at Lighthorn Road, Kyneton. We fully support the officer's recommendation to approve this application for up to 70 much-needed new homes, 35% of which will be affordable. The site is located immediately adjacent to the edge of Kyneton Village and is identified as a safeguarded site for residential development under Policy H6 of the Neighbourhood Development Plan. The Neighbourhood Development Plan was made after a local referendum in full knowledge that this site would be needed for housing should the council be unable to demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply. As set out in the officer's report, the council are currently unable to demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply, and therefore the triggers for releasing this safeguarded site through the Neighbourhood Development Plan, through the core strategy, and through the draft site allocations plan have been met. In addition to this, paragraph 11D of the NPPF has also been triggered. We recognise that the council's housing supply difficulties are not of its own making, but the messaging from government could not be clearer. Every LPA has a responsibility to significantly boost the supply of new homes, both affordable and market homes. To help in this, my client is willing to accept a time-limited planning condition to ensure a permission translates into new family homes as soon as possible. My client has been discussing the site with house builders and will have a development partner on board by late spring. The development partner will bring forward the reserve matters application, and it's expected that that will be in early summer, subject to the granting of planning permission of this application. This would mean that homes will be delivered next year, with the whole site, including affordable housing, being delivered in full to fully contribute to Stratford's 5-year housing land supply. Your officer's report clearly sets out that the application is justified. The proposed development has been carefully designed to respect its context and it provides the following. As I've mentioned, it boosts the supply of housing of up to 70 new homes across a range of housing sizes and typologies, responding to local need in a highly accessible location directly adjacent to the built-up area of Kyneton. the provision of 24 new affordable homes at 35% provision to be delivered on site, helping to boost the supply of affordable homes in Stratford district. These include a mix of tenures and house sizes in direct response to the needs of people of Stratford. As of the 31st of March, the current waiting list for affordable homes in Stratford district is 5,538, and just over £2 million was spent on temporary accommodation in the last year, so 24-25. Any contribution to reducing the waiting list and reducing spending on temporary accommodation should be given significant weight. The scheme will reflect and respect the local character of Kyneton in terms of design and materials. A design code will be submitted prior to the reserved matters submission to ensure that detailed proposals align with the core strategy and neighbourhood development plan. The provision of areas of public open space, including play areas for children and areas for ecological enhancement. This proposal would provide in excess of 10% biodiversity net gain. There would be economic benefits arising from the construction phases and the boost to the local economy from future occupants. And Richborough are working with officers to finalise the Section 106 agreement to secure benefits and appropriate mitigation. These include contributions to schools, libraries, healthcare and transport measures, totalling over £1.2 million. I would also like to just address some of the points that have been raised earlier today. In terms of highways concerns, there have been no highways objections to these proposals. Significant technical work and evidence have been submitted to support the proposals, and the Highways Authority has approved these and provided their support for the application subject to conditions. In terms of the discussions about an access road from the neighbouring site, as we know, the application has not been submitted to date. There is no requirement in an IDP in the neighbourhood plan policy as it's currently stated within the core strategy for that link road to take place, for those two sites to be linked. We will, however, be content to explore the feasibility with officers if desired, but I reiterate there is no policy basis to refuse an application for that reason. In terms of the comments made in relation to local flooding, the lead local flood authority has reviewed a full extensive survey works that have been prepared and submitted by technical specialists and confirmed that they are content with the findings and have proposed suitable conditions. Again, there is no technical reason to refuse the application on that basis. In summary, we would like to thank officers for their diligent handling of my client's proposals, and we fully support the recommendation. I would respectfully ask members to approve this sustainable development. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Fiona. Thank you for that. And also thank you for, at the same time, addressing some of the concerns that have been raised by the other speakers. Members, do you have any questions for Fiona in respect of the development? Councillor Parry first.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask if your client has received any communication from the neighbouring site developer about trying to work together to join both these sites up together, or to at least work together on a solution that would be acceptable to Kyneton Parish Council, on the basis that the Parish Council would be in support of both these sites coming forward on the basis of an access off the roundabout? I'm just interested to know if your client has had some discussions with the neighbouring site owner. Thank you.
From my understanding, there were early discussions prior to the submission of the application, but no further agreements or discussions were had following that.
Sorry, thank you, Fiona. Councillor Parry. Fine, thank you for that. I mean, you could, I would just point you to ask the opportunity to ask the case officers for the details about the policy background to that in respect of making a decision. okay, as a committee.
I would just also like to say that, as I've suggested earlier, my client is willing to have those discussions if it's desired by the local planning authority for us to do that.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions for Fiona? Okay. I'm looking around the table. Normally what happens is somebody comes in at the last minute, but it doesn't look like going to. Fiona, thank you very much indeed for coming along to explain the proposal.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and I have down that we have one final speaker. I'm not sure that Councillor Mills, you wish to speak, or I'm not sure you were registered, but you're down to have the opportunity if you would wish to. So is it okay? Are you wishing to speak? Oh, super. Okay. Okay, well, that's fine. Don't look quite so puzzled. It's just I wanted to make sure that you know that you had the opportunity to speak. So Olivia made sure that your name was down.
Yes, I did register.
Anyway, okay. So, Councillor Mills. Oh, Councillor Mills, 5 minutes, and over to you. Have you got any slides you want to show? No. Okay, so whenever you're ready.
Good evening, committee, and many thanks for attending the site visit to Kyneton. The committee were able to see how this proposed development will vandalise the landscape of Kyneton. In my opinion, this is not a well thought out application. Firstly, the applicant has not presented an acceptable need for extra housing in Kyneton. Kyneton has exceeded its housing numbers. Without doubt, the developer has not tackled the potential harm to the current infrastructure of this proposed development. To reiterate, the development will inevitably cause significant harm to the local landscape. The pre-app states, I quote, "The application for housing on the site would not be supported by the landscape officer due to its negative effects on the setting of Kyneton, loss of historical features and harm to the landscape, and loss of agricultural land." This is from Richard Greenway, Landscape and Forestry Officer at Stratford District Council, 4th of the 9th, 2024. The pre-app also states the site does not have in principle support for the developments for the core strategy reference policy AS10. The intended use of traffic lights on the Lighthorn Road Bridge will inevitably cause traffic chaos, as there will be unavoidable backup of traffic leading onto Southern Street. Warwickshire County Council officers visited the site and mentioned that traffic was light, but this was during the day, not at peak times. I think some of you, the members, have seen a video showing how bad the traffic is, which is a daily occurrence on the junction of Southern Street and Lighthorn Road. Should traffic lights be installed, this may have a dangerous effect on the many horseback riders who regularly use Lighthorn Road, as it is not clear whether lights are triggered by the movement of a horse. By nature, horses are a lot slower crossing the bridge than motorists and cyclists. This could be a danger of life to the horseback rider and horse alike. Also, the narrowing of the carriageway over the old railway bridge, leading to the need for traffic light control, will compound the existing traffic flow. To get access from their proposed site onto the Lighthorn Road would be foolhardy, as the Lighthorn Road is not on the Warwickshire County Council highways gritting route, and I have had it on good authority that highways are not planning to add more gritting routes to their already heavy work schedule. As a result, the road surface is a danger to motorists during the winter icy conditions. With the extra vehicles accessing the proposed developments in icy conditions, there will be a certainty of motor accidents which may cause danger to life. I have personal experience of this, as I've had the misfortune of skidding on the ice from the top of Lighthorn Road, which nearly wrote off the car. I can assure you, committee, this road is not fit for purpose. Also, the Warwickshire Highways Design Guide requires 160 metres visibility display both ways when exiting the proposed development for speed recording in the applicant's access statement. That statement indicates a display of only 123 metres. As you know, Warwickshire County Council acts as a consultee, and they can just as easily get things wrong as anyone else, and in this case they have. The schools and local doctors' surgeries are already oversubscribed, resulting in obvious lack of educational and medical facilities to the residents on this proposed site. Also, all schools in Kyneton are oversubscribed. This will inevitably increase the volume of traffic as parents will have to travel to other schools. Therefore, there will be more traffic on the already busy, crowded roads in Kyneton and the treacherous Lighthorn Road in winter. We understand that Cora is willing to work with all parties, but disappointed that there was no response from SDC's planning department to Cora on a letter sent by Cora on November 25. In summary, the site is within an open countryside. The impact on non-designated heritage assets will be unacceptable effect, and this will cause landscape and archaeological and historic harm to the setting of Kyneton. Number 2, Lighthorn Road is not on the Warwickshire County Council gritting route. 3, Kyneton has exceeded its housing numbers. 4, the applicant has not shown an acceptable need for housing, extra housing in Kyneton. And 5, County Highways demand a 160-metre visibility display, which is not achievable. There are also justifiable concerns, which I support, expressed earlier on behalf of residents regarding sewerage, overspill and flooding. Therefore, I will urge the committee to see the weakness of this application, the faults in the highway sign-off, and either refuse or follow the earlier request for deferral, as there are so many ifs and buts about this application. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mills. Members, do we have any questions for Mr. Mills in respect of his representations? Yes, Councillor Ballinger.
Good evening, Councillor Mills. I'm sorry to hear about you sliding in your car as well. It's been atrocious the weather recently, hasn't it? I just note that in your ward member representation notes, you stated that there's overprescribed schools. Can you just tell me which schools they are, please? Yeah.
That's Kyneton High School, and you've got the junior school and play school.
Okay, because I've just checked to see if they are overprescribed, and the high school apparently has got 52 spaces, and the primary school's got 2 spaces.
2 spaces.
So I just wanted to clarify kind of where those figures are from, just because I'm very passionate about schools myself, and just making sure that obviously.
I've got the figures from the school. So and also the play school, which is oversubscribed, and they oversubscribed up until September 26 and beyond. So they can't get any more children in there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Ballinger. Any further questions? No? In which case, Councillor Mills, thank you very much indeed for
Thanks, Chair.
coming on and presenting. Okay. Right, members, here's the opportunity to ask questions of the case officers, and we've also got the technical support of Mr. Harrison from WCC Highways. So I know that during those presentations you were asking questions and making notes, and I asked you if you would pick these up with case officers. You've heard a lot about the road, flooding, sewage, traffic lights. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Chairman. I understand the risks to which the council would be exposed if it were to make a decision to refuse in this instance. Could the officers please explain what risks the council would run if it were to make a decision in these circumstances to defer?
That would all depend on what the reason to defer would be. The only thing I've heard so far that is a potential reason for deferral is to allow the exploration of options around this other site to the east. That site at the moment, there's no current application for that scheme. There is no pre-app for that scheme, so it is some way off. The risk that this council runs, if it were to defer to try and team up this site with that site, is the longer that goes on, the more likely the applicant is to go to non-determination appeal to seek a decision from the planning inspectorate. That's probably the largest risk. And therefore have the decision taken out of the council's hands.
Thanks. Yeah, Councillor Harvey.
That begs the question, if the applicant, if there was a decision to defer and if the applicant were to seek a decision on the basis of time's expired, so to speak, what in your view would be the inspector's attitude towards the reasonable or unreasonableness of a decision at this stage to defer? Because the implication being that if it was likely to be held to be unreasonable, there would be the question of costs. I'm trying to bottom out the element of risk to the council and hence taxpayers that various decisions might run.
It is a very good question. And to add to your question, I think the answer should also consider the risk of being able to enforce the conditions that are currently attached to the officer's recommendation as it stands. Would that change?
So yeah, looking at a deferral, without knowing exactly what the deferral is on, I would refer back to the report and our recommendation and the evidence our recommendation is founded on, the most important one of which is the traffic modelling that informs the various interventions that come with the scheme before you tonight. We have a technical consultee, a highway authority, who say this scheme is acceptable and that the modelling works and it would work with all of the interventions, the traffic lights, the access and what have you. With that in mind, the council will therefore need evidence, and I've not seen any to date, of what severe highway harm would result from this scheme. If that can be found, then that would justify a deferral to explore alternative options. But at the current time, there's no such evidence. All of the evidence is that this scheme is acceptable in highway terms, which is why we brought this scheme to committee tonight, because it is acceptable in all technical terms.
Can you comment on the issue of the conditions, Richard, please? Should there be a appeal based on non-determination? Would it change if the applicant chose to appeal non-determination? Would there be any likely change to the conditions that we've attached to our or your officer's recommendation?
I would hope not. I'm bound to say that, but having experienced public inquiries before, they do get hacked about and you don't always get what you would hope for. They are different beasts when applications go to planning inquiries, and you don't always get as good an outcome as you wish or that you would get making the decision at a local level.
Would that include the contributions to education and such like that have been set out in the report? Potentially?
Possibly, but I'm conscious that the contributions that are set out in the report have been agreed by the applicant. So at the current stage, they're agreeable to it. But of course, if we're at a public inquiry a year down the line, they may take a different view. That is always possible, and that has happened in the past.
Okay, any further questions? Councillor Fleming.
Given the information we've heard tonight, and to follow on from what Councillor Harvey was saying about deferment, Richard answered and said timescale because there's been no pre-app and whatever for this secondary site. Is it possible, if we can find enough reasons to defer, that we could set a time limit as a condition for that to come forward? So solicitor's nodding her head, so I'm guessing that's a no.
There's two elements to that. Firstly, yes, if you can find evidence to justify a deferral, absolutely, that's always open to you. And if you were to do that, then yes, it would be essential that you gave that negotiation period a firm timeline, after which it would come back before you to make a decision on whether that process has been exhausted.
Councillor Parry.
Thank you, Chair. What I would like is a little bit more information on the traffic modelling assessments that were provided, and can the representative from Warwickshire County Council advise, are the various types of traffic modelling assessments that one can undertake? For example, was this done in real time during peak hours, or was it perhaps done through a satellite survey type of operation? But essentially, are there various grades of traffic modelling assessments? And if so, what was the level of this particular traffic modelling assessment undertaken? In other words, are there sort of a preliminary type of model assessment, then there's one that's for something with slightly different road connections? So I just want to get a bit of a handle on the type of traffic modelling assessments that Warwickshire County Council Highways undertake, and do they vary in terms of the depth and the type of survey that's undertaken, and what is the evidence base used for these type of traffic assessments?
Okay, thank you. It might be worthwhile, if I just, to help answer your question, to go through the process that we've gone through. Just to be clear, the Highway Authority hasn't undertaken the modelling. The Highway Authority has looked at the modelling that was undertaken by the applicant in support of their application. So that is based on what's known as trip generation, so that the number of trips that this development would be expected to generate. So there's an agreement on the trips, and that's been agreed between the developer and the Highway Authority. We reviewed their trip generation assumptions. So X number of dwellings will generate X, Y number of trips. So that has been agreed and has been accepted as being robust. So that's been undertaken. Now, in terms of the distribution of those trips on the network, the applicant has undertaken an assessment based on known trip patterns in that area, based on journey to work data. So in this case, 61% traffic going north towards the Fosse Way, the remainder going south towards the junction with Southern Street, and then split in left and right, the majority going to the east towards Gaydon and the M40. Those trip distribution assumptions have been agreed. So that assessment, those flows are then looked at in the base year, which is 2024, and in the forecast year. And the forecast year is 2029. So we've looked at the situation in 2029 with some growth to allow for growth in traffic, because the number of vehicles are growing. So there's been an assessment of isolated junctions, key junctions on the network for a 2029 base year. And then what the applicant has done is add on the agreed number of additional trips that this development would generate for those junctions. So then the comparison then is between what would happen with no development in 2029 and what would happen with development in 2029. And those assessments are undertaken for the Southern Road, Lighthorn Road junction. It's been undertaken for the traffic signals. And it's also been undertaken for the access, albeit there's no access in 2029. There's nothing there without the development. Now, that assessment has been reviewed in detail by the modellers within Warwickshire County Council and found to be acceptable. So those impacts, the modelling itself has been found to be acceptable. In terms of the performance of those junctions, the impact on their performance is quite low, because the trip generation and the distribution of trips from this site is not that huge, 70 dwellings. And to be fair to the applicant, they've done the assessment on the models, assuming 80 houses as a robust upper limit. So they've gone beyond 70, albeit their development says up to 70. They've done the assessment on 80 houses. So looking at the delays at the Southern Road junction, the impact, I'm looking at the queue differences here. The queue it goes up from 35 to 38. Seconds of delay. It's quite a small number. That's the AM peak. In the PM peak, it goes up from 29 to 30 seconds of delay. So the impact is not that large. And that's the case for the Southern Road junction. And also in terms of the shuttle operations over the bridge, the queuing on that, if you bear me 1 second, I've got the data here. The queues in the AM peak in 2029 going northbound is 2 vehicles. And going southbound is also 2 vehicles. So we've looked at quite a bit of detail on how these will perform. And the final point in terms of the shuttle signals, it should be added that in a way that's a worst case assumption. That's working on the basis of a fixed time cycle on that signals. In reality, what the applicant at our behest is doing is to make it a vehicle activated set of signals. So vehicles, if there's no vehicles coming south along Lighthorn Road, and a vehicle comes out of Kyneton going north, and is detected, detection systems in place, it will call a green for that vehicle going north. It'll hurry call the green to reduce potential delays for traffic, and vice versa, coming south. And that detection system is also used to detect cyclists, because they were concerned, obviously, cyclists are slower off the stop line going up onto a bridge. So there's detection systems there which would detect the cyclist or a horse going north or south, and it would hold a red on the opposing traffic, so there's no conflict on the bridge for opposing vehicles. So that's a bit of detail, I'm afraid. So there's quite a bit of detailed work on this. In terms of the modelling, what the modelling being undertaken is isolated junction modelling. So the key junctions in the network have been modelled. There's no micro-simulation model for Kyneton, a widespread model. It's on the basis of isolated junction model, which is an accepted methodology. So there's nothing exceptional in terms of the way this modelling has been done. It is technically correct.
Can I just come?
Yes, you can.
Can I just come back on that? So just to confirm my understanding, Warwickshire County Highways have only used the information supplied by the applicant, and Warwickshire County Highways haven't carried out a site visit at all.
No, we certainly have.
A presence. They haven't visited the site or visited that junction, for example, at between 8:30 and 9 o'clock in the morning, when there are, at that time, I can assure you, a lot of traffic queuing onto the Southern Road. So Warwickshire have taken the applicant's information and haven't visited the site. It's just a desktop analogy using some trip models.
I will just allow Stephen to respond, but I think we've got to remember that we're looking at the impact of this development on additional trips. You know, this development isn't going to resolve the existing situation. We're looking at this development of an additional number of houses on the extra trips that are generated. That's what we need to consider. But Stephen, perhaps you'd like to add.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Thank you. In terms of the models and the analysis, that's been the models have been, and the data has been handed to Warwickshire to review. So the modelling team in Warwickshire haven't just taken the numbers and accepted the model. They have been critically reviewed and looked at by the specialists within the highways team. In terms of site visits, yes, there's been a number of site visits to Kyneton. I myself have visited it quite a few times. That would be incorrect to say they hasn't been visited. But in terms of the modelling, it's there are a number of experts within the transport planning team within Warwickshire, including the very senior, the leader of that team, and they have reviewed this modelling in detail.
Thank you, Stephen.
So just to come back, if I may, excuse me, Chair. So what you're saying is the development of 70 houses will only produce an extra 2 vehicles at any pinch point. Did I may have misheard that, because I'm just
I think what you might have misheard is the queuing on the lights on the railway bridge is a maximum of 2, and they're vehicle activated traffic lights. So that's in respect of the amount of cars going over the bridge and having to wait by the traffic lights. That was the 2 in both directions, north and south.
Yeah, the rationale where I'm coming from is Southern Street is the main road out towards the M40 to Jaguar Land Rover to Aston Martin. The vehicles turning right would take them away from the M40, Gaydon, all the work areas, plus also south of Banbury, and also towards Stratford. So I'm just interested how their modelling suggests that there would only be 2 vehicles in a queue from a development that's got 70 houses where most people have 2. I can see at least 140, certainly a 3-digit number of vehicles
Yeah.
residing at the development.
I think we
That's
need
all.
to draw this particular line of questioning to a close. I don't know if, Stephen, you wanted to just come back again on that. 70 houses creates additional traffic. The modelling has suggested a very small change to the existing situation. This development isn't going to resolve the existing traffic problems in Kyneton. They're already there. It's a bit like the existing flooding problems. But the incremental increase is very small. Stephen explained it was just a few seconds at a junction, and that it also explained that the traffic lights on the old railway bridge would lead to some queuing, but a very small number because they're vehicle activated. I've got a number of other people wanting to ask questions, so I need to move on. The next one, I've got you, Councillor Harvey, in a minute. Councillor Ballinger, a line of questioning.
I've got two, Chair, please. Number one, in terms of the bridge, just want to clarify around the Councillor Pridis and Councillor Gosling were mentioned around the path and the path being extended out, and then there's potential risks that cars may drive up the curb onto the path. I just want to clarify, kind of like, is there a safety issue there?
So, this one? Yeah, so the design of the changes to the bridge has been subject to what's called an independent road safety audit. There's been 2 road safety audits undertaken. Both audits specifically looked at the interaction between vehicles and pedestrians on that bridge. The widening of the whole purpose of having a shuttle operation is to widen the facilities for pedestrians on the eastern side of the bridge, going to and from along Lighthorn Road. The issue of the overrun, the point that was made, I believe, is that if the lights stop working and vehicles chose that ended up operating 2-way across that bridge, the potential would be they'd be overrunning an area that pedestrians would otherwise be using. And part of that is that was specifically covered in the road safety audit at our behest, at the Highway Authority's behest. And that's where there's a proposal that should, in the event of the lights failing, and it's pretty rare they do fail, there's a backup system of variable message signing which would alert drivers to the fact that the lights are not operational and that pedestrians are potentially on the road. The other issue to think about there as well, and that's also considered as part of the road safety audit, that is going to be lighting along in that area as well. The surfacing will be appropriate, and signage. So it's not as if it's a simple imposition of crude measures on the bridge without supporting infrastructure and information for users. And that has been subject to an independent road safety audit, which has been reviewed by the County Council's own qualified safety engineering team.
Thank you, Stephen, for that. Councillor Ballinger, are you happy with that? I mean, this isn't an unusual situation in the restriction of vehicles by traffic lights over humpback bridges where you need to create single movement rather than 2.
I'm aware of a humpback bridge in Stratford-on-Avon which just get quite dangerous at times, but I don't know if it's a fair comparison, so I can't obviously...
That's controlled by lights, I think. The one over the canal bridge you're on about at the end of Timothy's Bridge Road.
Correct, Chair.
Yeah. Councillor Passingham,
sorry,
next.
I've got another question.
Yep, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
If the agent for the applicant mentioned, obviously, families, encourage families to move to the area and family builds. I noted that Councillor Mills stated that the schools were at capacity. I noticed the last update on gov.uk for the high school showing 50 spaces was in November 2025. Do we know if there's sufficient spaces for high schools and just general schools within the area?
Thank you, Chair. If you refer to page 29 of the committee report, you can see that education have been consulted with respect to the application and require a contribution of £892,716, which will go towards education provision for additional primary provision in the local area, additional secondary provision in the local area and an additional primary and secondary SEN provision in the local area. So the Education Authority is aware of where there are existing deficiencies, what the impact of additional 70 households will be within the existing infrastructure, and will target that funding in order to provide additional places.
Can I just
Is it a follow-up on the same, the provision of educational facilities?
Yes. Do we have clarification of what that's going to be spent on, though? And just clarify that we're going to have spaces?
No, we don't, and that's not unusual. What will happen is a number of schemes will pay into a pot. The county council will hold that money for a number of years, and as schemes come forward, as its infrastructure department identifies opportunities to extend schools and build new schools, it can tap into that money.
Does that answer the question to you? I think that the fundamental point is that if school places were the determinant of additional housing, in some areas there'd never be additional housing. So the Education Authority has to provide for more people to come into an area in the population to grow, and it does so by seeking contributions from developments, so it can then provide those facilities wherever they are, however children move around or wherever the new children are living. Councillor Passingham.
Thank you. The Parish Council have proposed deferral because this other prospective site is hoping to come forward. And the main reason, as I understand it, is there'd be a better road solution and a better junction solution with a different design. Do you think that would change the modelling drastically, and it might improve the traffic situation, as is implied in what they've said?
I'd be reluctant to respond to an unknown scheme, and I'm sure my colleague Steve would agree with that. Modelling has to be on some very specific inputs. We don't know what that scheme is, how many houses will be in that scheme, how that road could impact on the different parts of the network in a way that would no doubt be different from the modelling that's been done for this site. The important thing to bear in mind is this site stands on its own 2 feet in highway terms, and unfortunately the council is not in a position where it can allocate sites, dare I say it. That's how it would happen if you had a local plan in place. You would have allocated sites and you can ask for big bits of infrastructure like roads on it. Where we are at the moment is in a position where, yes, we assess the quality of schemes and we make sure they can provide the minimum of infrastructure, which this one does, because we've consulted our colleagues at County and they've done extensive assessment of it. But that's really where the assessment ends. And as you've seen in your report, we are in what's called tilted balance territory, where the presumption is very much in favour of granting permission, unless you've got significant and demonstrable harms that you can demonstrate. And as officers, we don't see that.
Okay. Councillor Scorer.
Thank you, Chair. This is for the officer from Warwickshire County Council Highways. The road furniture, you've mentioned speed cushions. Could you explain a little bit more? How wide will those be? And are they at both sets of the bridge? And if I could come back with a secondary question.
No, the speed cushion would have to follow Warwickshire County Council guidelines in terms of design and so on. You wouldn't want, they'd have to meet our design standards. So any works within the public highway has to go to what's called the Section 278 process, which has to have technical approval. So any designs which would lead to potentially safety issues and so on and so forth just wouldn't be permitted. And on that basis, in terms of the last set of road safety audit, independent road safety audit undertaken, the speed cushions of a notional is the wrong word, but a particular dimension shown on a plan at a high level were considered as part of that road safety audit. Acknowledging that the detail of those speed reduction measures would be looked at in more detail at the stage 2 road safety audit, which is undertaken on the detailed design of the said cushions.
Thank you, Chair. Only because I'm from an agricultural background, and there's a lot of agricultural machinery used at Lighthorn Road. Now, I remember going back years ago on the Southern Road, on the mini roundabout where Fordington Place was, they put some speed cushions in. The local combine couldn't get through, and causing all kinds of problems. There's a real pinch point on that Lighthorn Road. If you're going to put a speed cushion in there, would that restrict agricultural vehicles? Because obviously that's there's a lot of agricultural land down that Lighthorn Road.
No, in terms of the design, the devil's always in the detail in terms of the design. The need for speed reduction measures was made clear by the Highway Authority in its first response to this application. The applicant has come back and suggested speed cushions in particular locations. The design of those speed cushions has to take account of the vehicles that use the road. In terms of the proportion of agricultural vehicles, we have data collected in September 2024 of various types of vehicles. Yes, there are some multi-axle vehicles along there, not a huge number, but acknowledging there are, and any design would have to take that into account. That is something that is solvable at the detailed design stage. It's not something that would constitute a severe impact at this stage.
So you think that you could get those speed cushions in, okay, for agricultural vehicles?
That would be part of the design brief for the speed reduction measures along there.
Okay. If I just ask another question. Councillor Mills mentioned that that Lighthorn Road doesn't get gritted, and where the entrance into the site is, it's on a bit of a hill there. Would Warwickshire County Council be, I'm just thinking about safety of cars, because, you know, unlike Councillor Mills, I have been hit on that road on a bicycle before.
Is this is this not an existing situation rather than something that's related to this particular application, Councillor Squire?
Sorry, Chair, but I'm just looking, you know, for me, planning's for the future. And if we are to put another 70 houses there, would that add to the risk of more accidents down that road?
Just in terms of accidents, just to be clear, in terms of recorded incidents, accidents which create injury to people, there has been nothing in the last 5 years. There are recorded incidents, because I've looked at it, I think dating from 2002, 2003 and 2008 on that section like Lighthorn Road. So in terms of cars skidding and going off the road and people getting injured, there's nothing on record, but recorded. Not on the data that we're holding. Not on the data we're holding. But that's pretty sure.
Okay.
I actually checked this morning.
Thank you, Stephen, for that. And we have to base our decisions on the evidence that's in front of us rather than anecdotal information, as you know. Councillor Harvey, you were next.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd want to pursue the line of inquiry that, or questioning that Councillor Parry alluded to. You've explained that the marginal impact of the additional traffic you anticipate from 70 houses would result in queues of 2 north and south on average. Yep. And on that basis, it is a small marginal impact. But there must come a point where the marginal impact, the marginal level of additional traffic generated, would lead you to object. I'm trying to find a measure, get a sense of whether this proposal is just inside a tolerable impact, marginal impact from your point of view, or whether it's a long way away from a marginal impact that would lead you to say, no, this isn't acceptable, we will object on this basis. So I'm trying to, could you put that into perspective? What is the threshold, the marginal impact, where you would say, no, on this basis we object?
Thank you. In terms of the operation of the shuttle signals, the performance, the data, we're well short of it being a severe and an impact. That level of queuing is just, it's low. The forecast level of queuing, it's nowhere near at the point at which we could sustain severe impact at an appeal should we object to this application. It's nowhere near that.
Can you put a number on that? I'm trying to, to
Well-
say nowhere near might be helpful to some, but it's not particularly helpful to me. I'd like to see, is it 2, is it 20, is it 50, is it 100, whatever the number is.
Well, in terms of queue length, the vehicles would have to queue back towards the junction between Lighthorn Road and Southern Street and Southern Road. 2 vehicles, they're nowhere near that level of queuing. In terms of the number of vehicles that take you back to that point, 5 times at least, I'd imagine. Yes. So in terms of the performance of Southern Road Junction, there's a measure of the efficiency of a junction. It's called the RFC, and if it's above 0.8, then it's considered to be or getting close to capacity. The forecast for these junctions is 0.59, at the worst 0.59 RFC. So it's a good bit below that level of congestion. It's not a severe impact. The marginal impact of this scheme.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Right, members, I just wondered if there are any further lines of inquiry. Could I open one up myself? And that is in respect of flooding, because we've heard representations from objectors about the existing flooding situation, with some claims that some areas are already 3 metres underwater in severe flooding, and that this development will potentially increase the risk of flooding into the existing watercourse for which there is no obvious clear route out. Could you help us understand in a little more detail the modelling that's supporting your opinions and those of the flood authority that we've consulted?
Thank you, Chair. I would direct you to the update sheet where I think we got some clarification in terms of the LLFA have assessed the development and have confirmed that the discharge rate from this site will be set at 2.43 litres per second, which represents a betterment on the existing Greenfield runoff rate, which is currently 3.04 litres per second. It's around about 20% betterment, and that in itself exceeds the expectations of both the Stratford District local plan and also the Warwickshire County Council guidance. Also turning to the MPPF and the requirements that are expected for that, the MPPF is clear that a development is not expected to solve existing flooding issues. This is sort of outlined in page 25 of the report. It's not to solve what is existing. It is to ensure that the flood risk is not exacerbated anywhere else. And that is what's been made clear by the applicant is going to have a 20% betterment from what there is the existing position.
Can you help the members understand how that betterment comes about? How is it that there's less surface runoff into those watercourses post-development than there is currently as an agricultural field?
Certainly.
So what is it that's changing to make it 20% less surface runoff from that area than there is currently?
It is part of the proposals, as you can see on this plan here. There are anticipated. Sorry, I'm not sharing. Why is that not sharing? Oh, it was there. Oh, sorry, it's gone. It's just not on that. Oh, there we go. Okay, as part of the proposals, there is an attenuation basin proposed within the southern parcel of the site. So this is, at the moment, it's an indicative drainage solution. More detailed proposals will be coming forward as part of the reserved matter application, and the LLFA will not accept a development that is going to exacerbate or have any greater runoff than any greenfield runoff that is at present. But it's already been demonstrated that it can result in betterment.
Thank you, Louise. Councillor Parry.
Thank you. I would just like a bit of feedback and information with regard to character of landscape. In the report, there's reference made to policy CS5, and it talks about how it requires development to maintain the landscape character and quality of the district. It also makes reference to the actual area site as being identified as having a medium to high sensitivity in the 2011 landscape sensitivity study. Obviously, with the proposals that we have in front of us with the highways, they are recommending traffic lights. Now, obviously, the Lighthorn Road into Kyneton represents a gateway road into the village of Kyneton. And I would just welcome some information as to whether the officers think that putting traffic lights, the first set of traffic lights to be installed in Kyneton Village, would that have an urbanisation impact on the character of the landscape, being at a gateway entrance into the village, where villages don't normally have traffic lights? So would the introduction of traffic lights at the gateway entrance on this historic bridge have the impact of urbanising the village of Kyneton?
The starting point for the assessment you speak of there is to look at the existing character of the area. And it is part rural, but it's part urban. And I say it's part urban because there's a number of houses in the area, and there's also the Victorian Bridge, which I would consider an urban rather than a rural feature. And the lights will be seen in the context of that Victorian railway bridge. So it's not a purely rural area. And I would go further and say that traffic lights, whilst more an urban feature, they are found in rural areas. In this context, I think the visual impact of the traffic lights would not be so incongruous as to be harmful, i.e. the current character of the location is only semi-rural, and therefore the addition of traffic lights wouldn't be harmful.
Okay. Councillor Scorer.
Yeah, and Councillor Parry mentioned the traffic lights, but also the officer from Warwickshire County Council mentioned about extra signage and extra lighting. So you just mentioned the traffic lights. In your opinion, with the traffic lights, extra lighting and extra signage, would that be sign and light pollution with a semi-urban area?
Well, as I said, it's on the edge of one of our larger villages. It's a main rural centre. There's street lighting already in Kyneton. I would say it is, if you stood within the built-up area, it would feel more urban than rural, notwithstanding it's a village. It's only when you get to the edge of the village that you get that rural feel. This is on the way there, and as I said about the traffic lights, things like signs and what have you, they are not that common in the countryside, but they're not completely unusual, and it is found in various rural locations throughout the district, which is why I would come to the conclusion that it's not so harmful that you would refuse it on rural character reasons.
Any further questions of clarification, or we more or less exhausted those avenues? Yeah, okay, well, we've heard a lot now, a lot from the community and objectors. We've heard from the applicant and also the ward member, and we've tested out some of the conclusions in the report that the officers have put in front of us. It's for us to come to a decision on this. But first, we would like to have a conversation about how do you feel about this development. Are you happy to support the officer's recommendation or otherwise? Who would like to start? Councillor Harvey, thank you very much.
I'll probably say things now that I shouldn't say.
Perhaps you shouldn't say them then.
The ideal solution for me would be for this application to be withdrawn and for the developer who wants to develop this site to go and talk to the guys who want to develop the other site. So withdrawal would be the ideal. If that's not possible, deferment, but you have to have good reasons for deferment. And I don't think we've heard, given all the questioning we've subjected the County Council officer to, I don't think, in my mind, we have established firm grounds for being able to justify a deferral. It seems to me that the parish council have got as represented by Councillor Prentice, has got a very pragmatic, sensible, and understandable attitude to this application and why they object to it. The presence of the roundabout with to the northeast of the site, it intuitively is a far better traffic solution than what's proposed. However, we are where we are. I don't think that I have, in my mind, established any tangible, credible, sustainable reason, planning reason to go, unfortunately, I have to say, to go against the officer's recommendation. And at the present stage, I am minded to, with utmost reluctance, to support the officer's recommendation to grant. But
do I take that as a proposal at this point?
Not at this point, no.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay. Let's go with I'll come up the line. Councillor Passingham first, then Councillor Scorer, then Councillor Fleming.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Harvey. I think it should be deferred or withdrawn. I've got new estates in my ward where the roads aren't very well connected, the footpaths aren't very well connected, and the cumulative effect of all of them has had a very detrimental effect on the sewerage network. So I can quite understand where Kyneton's coming from. But as Councillor Harvey says, and as we've been told by the officers, we wouldn't have much of a case if this went to appeal. So I don't think we've got much choice but to support it.
Are you making a proposal?
Yes, I will make a proposal. Yes,
You'll make a proposal
that we support.
That you support the officer's recommendation and a proposal to grant in accordance with the conditions that are in the report and, as noted in the update sheet, some minor changes. Thank you for that, Councillor Passingham. Councillor Scorer.
Thank you, Chair. For me, as I said before, planning's for the future, and I've got to think about, this is for me, it's a premature application. For me, I think I'd like to defer it. I'm looking at, the negatives substantially outweigh the benefits on this scheme. I think that it's inefficient use of land. Obviously, the parish council are keen that, these sites are coming to for the reserve, and because we haven't got the 5-year housing supply. And also, I think we've got to look at it, that it demonstrably affects the landscape as well, with the Lighthorn Road, with the sign pollution and the traffic lights in Kyneton. I think if we deferred it on those grounds, that we can then, it would be an all-round better situation.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I just refer you back to Richard's response to you in respect of the urbanisation of the lights and the traffic lights and the character of the land, which has already been discussed. So I'm a little bit concerned at the moment about finding those as reasons for deferment. You said it's not a good use of land, but in fact there are benefits in respect to the provision of...
I think in the new MPPF it says efficient use of land in the new MPPF, and for me, my interpretation of efficient use of land would be access to the land as well.
I'm not sure if I really understand where you're going with that, but anyway, we'll just park that for the moment. Councillor Fleming.
Yeah, I seem to have written a bit of an essay about this, really. We're always in a situation where we've got to judge what's in front of us tonight. I think there are better solutions that might be available. I'm not convinced by the bridge explanations and the queuing, and because we were there the other day, and there certainly is more than 2 cars at a time come down that road as we are. I'm not in favour of refusal, because listening to the parish council and our 5-year housing land supply, that's just going to take us into a mire of problems. I'm not sure if I've got enough to defer, though. That's the other, for other options. But as things stand at the moment, I can't support the officer's recommendations in terms of granting this. I just want to hear what everybody else has to say before I make a final decision, because I'm nowhere near agreeing to this, to go with the officer's recommendation. But what I'm really struggling to do is to get enough information to build a case for deferring at least. But certainly I wouldn't be going for refusal. But that's where I am at the moment.
Okay, thank you for that. Who else would like to speak on this? Councillor Parry.
Thank you. We've tried really hard this evening, haven't we? We've asked a lot of questions. And when we tend to ask a lot of questions, it's because if something's not quite right, it's not quite right. This application, from my perspective, falls into that particular category. As someone who worked in Kyneton, travelling from Morton Morrell, always drove across what actually the locals call, and I used to call, the prairie. The Lighthorn Road is known as the prairie. We drive across the prairie. And it's, you have that wonderful, you always have sun beaming into your eyes early in the morning. It's really difficult to see apart from anything else. And then you come slowly down into the village and you're greeted by the bridge. And it's been that wonderful rural landscape, character of landscape. Compton Verney borders, the Compton Verney estate borders the Lighthorn Road. So I actually know it really, really well. I'm struggling, I'll be honest with you, with the vehicle modelling assessment, particularly suggesting that a 70-house development would just add another 2 vehicles to a possible queue over a Victorian bridge. And it just doesn't sit comfortably. I am therefore struggling to support this application. I never like abstaining, and I would far rather see this as deferment, because it's what I will say, it's really nice to have a highways expert from Warwickshire County Council, so thank you for coming along this evening, because it really is valued. Having said that, I would like to see a far greater traffic assessment done, because actually we're making life-changing decisions here this evening on the rural character of a gateway entrance into Kyneton Village, and we potentially have a solution. My view is this site is actually being brought forward prematurely, and actually if the planning inspector hadn't ruled in favour of Borden Hill, this site wouldn't have, it would be thrown out basically on the 5-year housing land supply. I'm a great believer that we need to be placemaking our villages, and that's really important. So for me, I just feel we need a more detailed traffic survey, and I would like to feel we could defer on the basis of a more detailed traffic survey that looked at the traffic movements in greater detail.
Okay.
And that's my view.
Yeah, well, I hear what you said, thank you. My response to that would be that I don't think you're going to get anything different in respect of the traffic details from this particular development. And as I said, when you were questioning the expert, and he is the one with the evidence, I think we have to rely upon evidence from our consultation responses and the experts. What I said at that time was that we must not be confused with existing traffic situation, and what we are looking at is the additional traffic that is placed upon the network by this development of 70 houses. So I would have to probably disagree with you, Councillor Parry, personally, on a request for more traffic studies, because I don't think that will show you anything. I think you would get the same. I could ask, I think it's within my discretion to ask that question of Stephen. Stephen, what would we gain from further traffic studies? If there were to be some, what would they be?
Well, thank you, Chair. That's the question. The trip generation of this site has been assessed, that the marginal additional traffic on the network, and that would remain the same. That's the trip distribution of that traffic has been assessed, and that would be the case in the future. Junctions which could be affected by that traffic have been assessed in isolated junction model, and that in turn has been assessed by the modelling team at Warwickshire County Council. The traffic already on the Lighthorn Road has been identified in a survey which was undertaken as part of the evidence base for this application. The survey was in September 2024, I believe, or 24. So this is up-to-date data. They've also undertaken surveys of traffic speeds along Lighthorn Road at 2 locations, and also along Southern Road and Southern Street, and traffic volumes. So that's up-to-date data. So it's difficult to envisage what additional data could be requested to undertake a further assessment. And whether that would give you different answers is a very moot point. We've looked at this, and at the moment we can't see we couldn't sustain a severe impact.
Okay, so I think I'm glad I asked that question, because I need to push back a little bit on your suggestion that additional traffic data would be one reason for a deferral, which I can't actually agree with you. Councillor Scorer.
Yeah, if I could propose a deferral on this then, and I say with my comments that I think it's going to make a demonstrable harm to the gateway of the village with having extra traffic lights. I think that the negatives substantially outweigh the benefits of coming of the development, and also I don't think that it's efficient use of the land when with the neighbouring developer wishing to come from a more suitable entrance from the roundabout. If they could talk together, basically.
Do you just want to take a second just to hold on while we have a quick conversation about that question?
You can do, but I can come back now.
Let's do that then, because this is a proposal for deferment based on the impact of the traffic lights and presumably lighting on the rural feel of the village, 1, and 2, that it's not efficient use of that land because a proposal could come forward that would be more beneficial, potentially. But that proposal would rely on somebody else with some other piece of land. So, that's not within the scope of this application.
No, but the Councillor Pridis mentioned that the developer's already written to Stratford District Council, and he's been on the phone.
Yeah, whether they have or not, we heard there was no application and no pre-application advice given either. So, Richard, did you want to comment on this, the potential deferment based on the impact of the lights on the bridge and some lighting on the rural nature, and also that there's a more efficient use of the land? How would they sit as reasons for deferment?
Well, we'd need to know as officers what you wanted us to go away and do that's different. So you're saying you don't like the traffic lights and you don't like the street lighting. Presumably you would prefer a scheme that didn't have that. But if you had a scheme that didn't have that, then it would cause severe harm to highway safety, because it's not addressing the highway issues that this development creates. So you come full circle back to the argument that was made earlier about does the traffic lights and does the signage urbanise and otherwise rural location, and that's a planning judgment, and really you've got to make that tonight, that because if I take it away for 6 months and negotiate, I don't know what I'm negotiating on to bring back to you that would be different in 6 months. Because I can't see a scheme that won't have traffic lights and won't have signage, because that is a fundamental part of the proposal.
I suppose I'm just trying to defer it so they can, the two developers can talk together at the end of the day. But I realise that that they haven't come forward. But I think that I'd still go for that deferral.
Councillor Harvey.
Reluctantly, can I second Councillor Passingham's proposal?
So that's to approve this application in accordance with the recommendations of the officers, subject to conditions and the update sheet. Yeah, Councillor, thank you for that, Councillor Harvey. Councillor Ballinger.
Thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Harvey's beat me to it, but I was just I think we've exhausted absolutely every possibility tonight, and we're in a situation where we can't feasibly defer it. I can't see any grounds to go against the officer's recommendation. So I will leave it as somebody's proposed and somebody's seconded.
Okay, thank you for that. I mean, it is important that we remember when we hear all the information from the speakers and we hear the case officer, we also got to recognise that there have been significant number of consultations, and if there were consultation responses that were objecting or with objections that could not be overcome, then the situation might be somewhat different. But we've got to remember that in order to go against the officers' recommendations, then we have to have some material planning reasons to do so. I'm not convinced that I have seen or heard any, having us tested this out significantly. And unfortunately, we are in this very, very difficult situation where we don't have the housing land supply, so that pushes us into different territory to normal. Who else wanted to comment? Nobody? Can I ask you, Councillor Score, you were trying to make a proposal for deferment, but that was sort of rebutted by the response of the case officer because you haven't come forward with any sound reasons why we would potentially be able to defer this application. Remember that any subsequent applications by other parties on other pieces of land are outside of this consideration.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, they're my subjective views. So, but if we go to the vote, I haven't had a seconder, so for my proposal. So, as a chair, you should.
Well, I wanted to give you the opportunity to speak about that because you had wanted to make a proposal to defer, and I think that you won't be alone in having some thoughts about this because it feels premature, but we have an application in front of us and we have an officer's report, a set of very detailed consultation responses supported by Stephen tonight, who's adequately, in my view, answered the concerns about highways. But in addition, I just go back, sort of repeating what I said about, we have to recognise that we're looking at the impact of this development, and it's the delta impact of this development on the situation in Kyneton. It isn't for this development to resolve situations in Southam Street in Kyneton. That's not how this works. So, okay, on that basis, I will bring us to a conclusion in taking a vote on a proposal by Councillor Passingham. I've got to get the wording right here. This is because there's a big update sheet and some changes to conditions. So this is a proposal from Councillor Passingham, seconded by Councillor Harvey, to go with the officer's recommendation on the basis of the development plan and the other material considerations for application 2403 143 outline application with reserved matters to come, to be granted subject to item 1, which has been changed. There's an amendment of the wording which now reads: the completion of a Section 106 agreement securing the planning obligations as detailed on pages 29 and 30, the planning of the committee agenda and on the update sheet, with delegated authority to the head of development in respect of the detailed wording and any necessary amendments and numbering. And that's to be signed and completed within 6 months of the date of the committee. And item number 2, and then there's a series of permission conditions defined, which includes a change to the condition in respect of the application for approval of reserved matters, since the applicant has said that really a year is insufficient to deal with the design code submission, and office has considered that an 18-month period for the approval or the submission of reserved matters to be an acceptable compromise. So that's a change to the conditions in respect of the reserved matters. Yeah, okay, and subject to the amendment of conditions in the update sheet. So on that basis, we have a proposal and a seconder. So please can I have a show of hands for that proposal? 5, and a show against? 3, and are there any abstentions? I don't think so, in which case it's carried, and council have resolved to grant 2403143 outline in accordance with those conditions in the update sheet. Very, very difficult application to deal with. Thank you all committee members for testing out as best we can as elected members, and thank you also to everybody that's turned up tonight to support the speakers, whichever side they're on, and thank you for those representations. It's appreciated. We're going to take a 5-minute break now, 10-minute break probably, before we deal with the second application. Thank you all, and a safe journey home. Okay, right. So we're back on the agenda now. Next item is application 2501-653 full, and it's we're on item 5. It's Grey Cedars, 6 Beaches Walk, Tiddington, and this is for a 2-storey rear extension, a single-storey rear extension, and a loft conversion. So we have. I beg your pardon. So have I missed something?
Sorry, Chair. No, it's part of the declarations of interest. That when I was going through emails, I noted that all of members received an email on the 16th of December from Rob Cobley, and I just and I apologise if I didn't mention that earlier, but I just thought just to mention it now because that was after the last meeting that we had.
Thank you. I must admit I'd forgotten that, so thank you for that. And did that go to the all committee? Do you think, Councillor Ballinger?
Yes, it did, Chair.
All right, thanks. Okay, so Louise is going to take us through this application. So, Louise, when you're ready, there is something on the update sheet as well, just to note. It was in respect of an independent building survey that was submitted with some details. So that should hopefully help inform the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Members will recall that this application was brought before the committee on the 3rd of December for consideration. The application was deferred for a site visit which occurred on the 12th of January. The application site is identified by the black dot on the map and is located on the eastern edge of Tiddington Village and located within the built-up area boundary. On here, there we go. It is identified by the site edged in red, and it forms a cluster of 8 properties known as Beaches Walk, which are accessed via a private driveway off Main Street in Tiddington. Planning permission is sought for the erection of a 2-storey rear extension, a single-storey rear extension, and a loft conversion incorporating the raising of the ridge height of the property by 1.5 metres. The property also incorporates the inclusion of 3 roof lights on the front and rear of the property. The key issues related to this application are the impact of the proposals on the street scene and neighbouring amenities. Plans have been updated to omit the annotations which led to confusion at the previous committee, and my assessment of this is found on page 44 of your agenda. Dealing with street scene first, the applicant has provided a street scene plan showing the approximate ridge heights of the existing dwellings and those with the proposed development. These are, as you can see, on the screen here. This is showing the existing ridge heights, and this is showing, with the application site identified here, and this is showing the proposed development. So what members need to be aware of is that the adjoining neighbour at number 5, Beaches Walk, has provided a building survey of his own property, which depicts the ridge height of their property, which is the property here, to be 7.2 metres to its ridge height. The proposals here show it to be 7.4 metres. So obviously members need to take that into account when deliberating your considerations. However, as officers, we consider that there is sufficient variety within the street scene to accommodate the revised design such that it remains in keeping with the street scene. However, this is a photograph of the street scene for members to make their own judgment of the impact of increasing the ridge height of the existing dwelling by 1.5 metres. The second aspect, key aspect of these proposals relate to neighbouring amenities. These are the existing elevations of the property, which has an eaves level of 4.8 metres and a ridge height of 7.4. This is the proposed front elevation of the property of the proposals, and this is the side view, which adjoins number 5 Beeches Walk. The ridge height of the two-storey extension is going to be, is at 4.8 metres, with the ridge height of the two-storey extension being, it's the eaves height, apologies. Eaves height of 4.8, ridge height of 7.2. Turning then to the, well, I've already said the main dwelling, that's for increasing to 5.2 metres increase in the eaves, with the overall height of 8.9 metres. So that's a 1.5 metre increase here. Looking then at the single-storey extension, on the eastern, it's L-shaped, and on the eastern part of the extension, that is proposed to be 13.1 metres, with a flat roof with a parapet, and that measures 3.3 metres in height, with 2 roof lights, and is going to be set 1.2 metres away from the site boundary on the eastern side. The western side, which abuts 7 Beeches Walk, will be 2.3 metres from the boundary and extend 6.6 metres in length. When considering impact on neighbouring amenities, as set out in Part F of the Council's Development Requirements (SPD), the use of the 45 and 25 degree tests are required to provide guidance on the potential impacts on amenities of neighbouring properties in terms of loss of light to main habitable rooms. As can be seen by the block plans provided, the positioning of Grey Cedars is set back into its plot in relation to the adjoining neighbour at number 5, which results in the existing building contravening the 45 degree test when measured from both the ground floor and first floor bedroom windows of number 5. However, the existing and proposed development doesn't breach the 45 degree test when measured from number 7 Beeches Walk, which is situated to the west of the site. In light of the breach of the 45 degree test for number 5 Beeches Walk, it's necessary then to carry out the 25 degree test, which is measured along the vertical plane. This plan shows the proposed rear elevation and shows the 25 degree test when measured from the ground floor window and first floor window of number 5 Beeches Walk. As I previously stated, the adjoining neighbour has provided a building survey of the rear of their property, and officers have plotted this onto the applicant's plan to produce what you are seeing here. The dashed black line is as provided on the applicant's plans, and the red line is as provided by the neighbour's survey. Members will note that there's a slight difference between where the 25 degree line runs from the neighbour's window. For the purposes of applying the 25 degree test, we've used the neighbour's survey of number 5 and its windows, and we consider this is more robust. This now is a composite plan I have produced, which uses the survey drawing provided by the neighbour at number 5 and the survey drawing provided by the applicant at number 6. On the left is the existing situation, showing the extent of the 25 degree breaches, and on the right is the proposed situation showing the extent of the 25 degree breaches as proposed. Members will note that the level of infringement increases with a new development However, having regard to all considerations in the SPD on neighbouring amenity, officers consider that number 5 will continue to receive reasonable levels of light. Now, this is a photograph of the existing dwelling showing the relationship with number 5, which you can see is set back from the side gable of number 5. This is showing the existing rear elevation of the application site and also its relationship with 7 Beeches Walk. And this is the relationship or photograph of the rear of number 5 Beeches Walk, and the picture of the conservatory here. The members who attended the site visit will be able to remind themselves of the location of the ground floor bedroom window, which is situated in here. There are 2 updates on the update sheet related to the provision of the building survey provided by the owner of number 5 Beeches Walk and the additional comments received by the applicants in response to the new information. The recommendation is to grant permission with the 7 conditions listed in the committee report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Louise. Okay, so we have some speakers on this application, and to start with, it would be Robert and Sarah Copley, who are the neighbours in number 6? 5. Thank you, Richard.
My mistake.
Yeah. So this is number 5.
Oh, yes, sorry. Hang on.
Did Robert and Sarah have any photographs?
Yes.
Yeah. Could you get those up for us, please, Louise?
It's coming now. So I'm just going to...
Sure. Doesn't say it. Doesn't say it's open. I could give them as much time as they want. Yeah.
Stop sharing.
So, was one of you going to do the speaking and the other answer questions? Yeah. Okay. So it's sort of 3 minutes ish.
Thank you.
Is that what you were expecting to see? Yeah? Is that right? Oh, right, okay. How many have you got, Louise?
These were the ones sent today, I believe.
Those are sent on Monday. There's 5 slides there. Yeah.
These are the correct ones, yes?
They're fine. We can work with them.
There are 5 by the looks of things. Yeah, okay, no worries. Do you just let Louise know when to skip from one to the next? Okay, Robert, thank you. When you're ready.
Okay. Chair, members, thank you for reconsidering this application and for visiting both properties. I'll focus on 3 things: the verified evidence you now have, the real amenity impact on my father's home, and why this proposal is still being assessed in using inaccurate drawings. At the last meeting, you wanted certainty on the accuracy of the information and light impact to make a fair assessment. Councillor Harvey was clear that decisions must be based on sound information. Councillor Fleming said he wasn't sure he trusted the facts. And Councillor Parry reminded you that these are life-changing decisions. You unanimously deferred on the basis that a site visit was fundamental. Slide, please. Yes, please. Oh.
That's fine. Come on. Go.
Your site visit and our independent RICS survey of Touchwood establishes the facts. You saw how narrow the plots are and the unique offset relationship between the houses. Given that very close proximity, accurate measurements are fundamental to understanding impact. Our survey confirms that Touchwood's ridge is 26 centimetres lower than drawn on the submitted plans. The true height difference between Touchwood and the proposed new ridge of grey cedars is 1.7 metres over 5'6", making the impact materially worse than assessed. My father's ground and first floor windows are shown larger, higher and further away than they actually are, as the councillors saw on site. This makes the 25-degree rule assessment worse than presented. Development should not be approved on design drawings known to be inaccurate. Where inputs are wrong, conclusions are too. Can we go to slide 5, please? The 25-degree and 45-degree rules are breached. They're described as minor, but as you saw on site, the overbearing impact of the increased ridge and two-storey extension are not minor. The rules exist to protect daylight and outlook. The harm here is measurable and material and directly affects my father's main living spaces. An existing minor breach does not justify creating a significantly worse one. Crucially, the application of the 25-degree test has changed 3 times. The assessment from the ground floor bedroom window has only been applied to the 2-storey rear extension. Why has it not been applied to the enlarged higher roof, the steeper pitch, or 3rd storey, all of which fall within the direct line of sight and contribute to loss of daylight? This materially understates the impact. Can we go back one slide, please? The site visit made the harm clear, and how much of my father's light and outlook depend on the conservatory and patio. The proposal adds excessive height and bulk close to the boundary, dominating his property, blocking light, and creating enclosure. The conservatory provides the primary source of light to his bedroom. Beeches Walk has a consistent 2-storey character. This scheme harms the residential amenity, harms the street scene, and sets a damaging precedent. Next slide, please. Forwards, please. Plot size does not justify building upwards rather than outwards. Your core strategy requires development to respect its surroundings and avoid dominance. This proposal fails those tests. It conflicts with policies CS9 and CS20 and daylight guidance, and it cannot be mitigated by condition. Members, you deferred to obtain sound information for a life-changing decision. You now have it. The harm is material and permanent, and we're asking you to refuse this application.
Right, thank you very much, Robert. Members, do we have any questions or points of clarification? I think it's useful to leave that, probably leave that slide up. Yes, Councillor Parry.
Thank you and good evening to you both. You highlighted in your presentation that most of the properties in Beeches Walk were 2-storey. Could you just confirm, if you know, how many properties are in Beeches Walk and how many are those 3-storey?
There's 8 properties in Beeches Walk and none of them have 3 stories.
Okay, any further questions? Okay. In which case, thank you very much indeed for the presentation and the slides. Okay, next we're going to hear from Dan Williams, who's the applicant who lives next door to number 5. Have you got any slides? Dan, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, do you want to leave that one up? Yeah, okay, Dan.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Chair and members. Thank you for your time and giving this application and for attending the site visit earlier this week. I appreciate the care and attention that members have taken to understand the site, its context and relationship between the properties. I would like to try to begin by clarifying a point that has been raised previously regarding the nature of the proposal. We are not proposing a 3-storey house, as incorrectly stated by objectors. The property remains a 2-storey dwelling with accommodation in the roof. There is a modest increase to the existing wall at the boundary, with the remainder of the roof height rising inward under a hip roof away from the neighbouring boundary. This was a conscious design decision made specifically to reduce visual impact and respect neighbouring amenity following initial objections being raised. I appreciate that a great deal of attention has been given to measurements, drawings, and technical detail throughout this process. That scrutiny is entirely understandable. What I would respectfully say is that these matters have now been examined repeatedly by officers through revised plans, a site visit, and professional assessment. No new planning harm has been identified as a result. My understanding is that a topographical or measured survey has been introduced during the process, but no evidence has been presented to suggest that changes the officer's assessment or reveals any planning harm that has not already been fully considered. I would also like to address the way objections have evolved. Concerns raised earlier in the process have been responded to through amendments, reductions in scale and changes to roof form. However, it's been difficult to understand the basis of later objections, which appear to shift focus repeatedly, including reliance on small number of obvious typos only, rather than any demonstrable planning harm. I remain genuinely confused as to how what is, in planning terms, a straightforward household application has attracted a level of scrutiny which I understand is more commonly associated with major developments. For my family, this 28-week process has been incredibly difficult. The proposal is intended to allow us to care properly for my elderly parents and provide them with a safe, long-term home alongside us. The uncertainty and prolonged nature of the application has placed a significant emotional, practical and financial strain on all of us. I'm grateful for members for the time and care they have taken to understand that context. I fully appreciate the responsibility members carry in making these decisions. I would respectfully ask that, having seen the site and considered the officer's clear recommendation, the committee brings this matter back on planning merits, the evidence before you, and whether any demonstrable harm actually arises. We believe this is a reasonable and proportionate proposal. I kindly ask that you allow us to move forward and bring this long and difficult process to a conclusion. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Dan. Members, do we have any questions for the applicant in respect of his proposals? Don't think so. No? Okay. Well, thank you very much, Dan, for that.
Thank you very much for your time all.
And just to say we appreciated the site visit, I also extend the appreciation to your neighbours as well, because it's helped us significantly. Right, we have a final speaker in Councillor Rolfe. Good evening, Councillor Rolfe. No, I'm sorry. Sorry, it's Sarah. Sorry, Sarah. This is just for Councillor Rolfe. This.
At the last meeting, I did ask her to sit by me with clarification of statistics. She has them written down, I haven't. And you allowed that to happen. She won't speak. You did allow it to happen last time.
I don't remember allowing it. I'd have to look. I'm being advised that it's not usual. But is it within my discretion?
Right,
in which case we should just allow Sarah there to provide data. To provide data only, if you require that, because as we know from the last meeting, there was some confusion as to the numbers that appeared on some plans. So throwing numbers around actually when you're speaking is quite difficult for us. We're going to be asking questions of the case officers based upon the measurements that she's made on the plans that have been submitted. Okay? Yes, you can, Richard.
Are the slides that you want up during this time?
Are there some slides?
Yeah, I'd like the slide showing the red band across the roof, the last slide. Oh, you said I
Sarah's
could do
slide.
That. That's fine, yeah. Did you say I could do that?
Yeah.
No, I mentioned it because the battery's gone on that, so I need to stop computers before
Okay.
you start. I don't want it to happen halfway through.
So let's get that organised. Well, no, she's going to share it across, and then you'll be able to look.
The second one.
So we're going to be holding IT training next week. Okay, I think we're done. So we have the slide up for you. Yep, there we go. Oh, you've got 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Thank you. Some of you will have been on the site visit on Monday and you will have seen the line from the main bedroom window looking towards the left and where the over 1.5 metre increase in height of the roof of Grey Cedars and the impact it will have on Touchwood next door. You will also have seen that pictures of the street scene do not emphasise that Grey Cedars is set back. You will also have been told about the upstairs bedroom window being positioned wrongly and is now closer to the eaves. Once again, I need to emphasise that some of the measurements are still incorrect in the report. The proposed height of Grey Cedars will be around 8.9, whereas Touchwood is 7.2. Such a huge difference, and combined with the fact that Grey Cedars is set back from the build line of Touchwood, will show the effect of this increase and the effect it will have on the patio and conservatory, and more importantly, the light to the main bedroom where the owner sleeps. You will also be aware of the two-storey extension, which will be the height of the current ridgeline, and aware of the effect this will also have on sunlight to the conservatory and bedroom of Touchwood. The conservatory of Touchwood relies totally on mostly all-round sunshine to keep the rest of the house warm throughout the spring through the autumn. This increased roof height of Grey Cedars will restrict so much of the sun to the bedroom and conservatory. I just want to answer one of the questions about the roof height, the new roof height to accommodate rooms in the loft. That to me says it's a 3-storey house. So to look at the update sheet, the applicant's response, I would like to point out the following. Point 3 of the update sheet, calculations should be taken from the centre of the downstairs bedroom window, as that is the main bedroom. The planner on the site visit asked us all to stand with our backs to the main bedroom window. Point 4, the rear of the elevation is absolutely relevant, as the document shows the correct position of the upstairs bedroom window, which is nearer to eaves and will cause even more problems with the 25-degree rule. Point 5 is not correct. Measurements should not be taken from the centre of the conservatory. The planner was adamant it should be from the bedroom windows. Therefore, I'm slightly concerned that the planner is contradicting herself in the officer note, as things have changed, in my opinion. One solution, of course, would be for the applicant to place the extension on the other side, where it will have no effect at all on the next door house. But of course, they're not going to do that because they know that they will lose all the sunlight to their patio. Is it right that this proposal denies Touchwood of all their sunlight, not only to the patio, but to the master bedroom? Because of the anomaly in measurements and because Touchwood is lower than in the report, the 25-degree rule is much, much more major. As you can see, it is a quarter of the roof. That whole red area is going to be affected. You will have seen the drawing produced by the occupant of Touchwood. Perhaps you can show this again. Oh, I'm sorry. Nearly half the roof. This is more major than is indicated in the report. Mr. Cobley would not have gone to such an expense in getting the correct measurements of his own house if he wasn't sure that the proposed application of Grey Cedars will have such a negative impact on his life living in Touchwood. Once again, I reiterate that because of the differential in measurement and the increase in harm to Touchwood and its bedroom and conservatory, this application must be refused. The applicant needs to seriously address the issue of overlooking and sunlight and the 25-degree rule. Please refuse this application.
Thank you, Councillor Rolfe. Okay, members, have you got any questions for Councillor Rolfe? Councillor Harvey has one.
Just a very simple question. Looking at the diagram, is it the intention, as far as you understand, for the existing hedge to stay in place?
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else got a question, particularly in relation to this diagram? For those that were on the site visit, we were able to stand by the what were the original patio doors that lead into the conservatory to look out. So we've probably got a good perspective on that, but not everybody went. Do you have a, well, we can come on to that when we come on to the officers' details, questions. You all right, Councillor Passingham? Just slightly concerned for you there. Okay, well, thank you very much indeed, Councillor Rolfe. Thank you, Sarah. Right, members, you've got an opportunity to ask points of clarification. Councillor Parry's going to start. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I've actually got three queries I would welcome some clarification on. Number one, could the officers give me the definition for a 3-storey house? Is it on the basis of its floors? I would find that very helpful. That's question number one. Question number two, the case officer made reference to reasonable levels of light. Could she possibly define or advise how reasonable light is defined? And number three, I would just like to know what the depth of the host dwelling is on the side of where the 44-foot long single extension is coming off. There is one side of the house, I mean, it's 13.3 metres extension. I would just find it helpful to know the depth of the host dwelling in front of it. I can't...
I know, but if you could zoom in on the plan, you can see on the plan the... Oh, sorry. Thank you very much. Yeah, if we can zoom in on that plan, you might get a better idea, Councillor Parry, that the plan shows the extension at the applicant's property and in plan form against the neighbour's property as well. So maybe that would help.
Yeah.
Because the number in itself, I'm not sure what that's going to tell you.
Well, I just want to see it.
You want to see it? Okay. They're going to scale it up, I think.
It's just helpful. It would just be helpful to know.
Yeah.
There's three questions here, so what we'll do is Louise will work on the third one and I'll answer the first two.
The first two, yeah. The one about what's a 3-storey dwelling. Yeah. Okay. Not sure.
Sorry, I don't mean to be difficult this evening.
The first question, as I understand it, was, is there a definition of 3-storey? I'm not aware of one, and I think it probably isn't the issue you need to be looking at, whether it's 3-storey or not. You could, the reason I say that is it's shades of grey. Someone might have an attic, and that's got a floor in it. Is that a storey or not? Yes or no? What if they convert the attic? At some point, it would become living accommodation. Does that make it a storey? So it's very hard to define, and I've never seen a definition. The more important point from a planning perspective is, does the addition of whatever floor they're putting in create such a proposal that it's out of keeping with the character of the area? And that's the test that members
That's precisely
will want to
why
look
I
at.
asked for the definition of a 3-storey, as to whether there was a difference in character of the street scene on the basis that the neighbour advised there were eight properties in Beaches Walk, and the proposal in front of us this evening is the only dwelling that's got a proposal for a roof extension or 3-storey. That was the rationale behind me asking the question, was based on the character of the street scene.
And the second question was the definition of, was it reasonable harm to amenity?
No.
Reasonable light.
Reasonable light.
Correct. Because the case officer made reference in her presentation that she defined
For consistency, that's set out for the council's purposes in Part F of the supplementary planning guidance that we use for particularly householder development like this and residential amenity. As with the last answer, there's no hard and fast definition, but there's a series of criteria that you need to look at when deciding at what point has something become harmful. And those we've taken into account in formulating the recommendation you have tonight. The 45 and 25 degree tests are national tests. Most councils will apply them. We apply them here, and they are a measure of daylight as opposed to sunlight or anything else like that. But it's purely daylight, and it is to provide some consistency in an imperfect world where there's all sorts of different relationships and buildings. And in this case, we've applied the 45 degree test. That is breached, so you move to the 25 degree test. That is also breached, but a material consideration is the fact it's already breached. And members will need to take that into account. They'll also need to take into account the fact that is guidance. So those are the sort of issues that we would apply. But in answer to your question, if it's defined anywhere, the closest you'll get to a definition is Part F of our SPD.
In answer to the final question, I think what you're referring to is the main body of the existing house. That measures to be 5.1 metres.
So the proposed extension, single-storey extension, is over 2.5 times the existing dwelling's depth of that part of the house.
Remember, it's L-shaped.
Yeah.
So if I can just refer you back to the block plan. So it is 13.1 metres along this elevation here, but it's only 6.6 on the western side.
I was particularly interested where the extension of the single storey came out. So the single storey proposal, if I'm right, is 13.3 metres, and then what you're saying is the original host dwelling part behind that 13.3 metres is 5 metres.
Yeah, 5.1.
So the extension going beyond the depth of the 5 metres is more than 2.5 times the length of the existing part of the host dwelling in that particular area.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Just as a point of context, look, the plans are up there. I don't know if you can see them. The application site showing the length of the single-storey extension, and it also shows in plan the properties to the left and right, and the shape of those properties as well. Now, members, it's almost 9 o'clock. I need to make a proposal that we move to extend the meeting for the length of time that's necessary to consider this, since we've already been here nearly 3 hours. So I'm going to have to propose a vote that we continue and we don't stop and adjourn this meeting and consider this application at a later date. So I'm going to make the proposal. Can I have a seconder, please, to continue tonight? Thank you, Councillor Eden. And a show of papers for those happy to approve that. Okay. So we're going to carry on. Thank you for that. Okay. So did I have a question? I can't. Councillor Fleming was next, and then I'll come to you, Councillor Harvey. So Councillor Fleming.
Councillor Parry basically asked my question. How do you define 3-storey and living in a loft space? That's basically that was what I was going to ask, and you've kind of answered it.
Yeah, and I think the case officer answered it in respect of the impact on the street scene, rather than whether or not it's 2, 3 or 1. It's the street scene that's the most important thing. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you. I have 3 questions. They're fairly factual.
Okay.
Number 1, is there anything you've heard tonight from any of the speakers which leads you to question whether the 25% test has been correctly undertaken, and we can rely upon, can we or can we not rely upon the results that you've reported, is one. Number two is, and the question to Councillor Rolfe was about the hedge. It struck me that the 25-degree line goes through the hedge. Is that therefore, if the hedge is going to be maintained, then does that have an impact? Does that not have an impact on the amount of light that comes in? Is that a relevant factor? And the third question is, are there or are there not other existing houses amongst the 8 which have a similar height to that which is proposed under this application?
Thank you, Chair. In answer to the first question, am I on? Sorry, in answer to the first question, officers do believe that we have undertaken a thorough assessment of the 25-degree test. We have taken into account the assessment provided by the applicants. We have taken into account the assessment provided by the adjoining neighbours. And the conclusion for both assessments is that we consider that whilst there is a breach, the difference between the two measurements are very limited, and overall it doesn't change our conclusion in terms of impact on adjoining neighbours or the adjoining neighbour. Do you want the second one? What was that? Retention of the hedge. Oh yeah, that was it.
Hedges are difficult ones when you're looking at amenity because they're not guaranteed to stay, but their existence is still a material consideration. In all likelihood, hedges or something similar do stay in position in these domestic arrangements simply so that people retain their privacy. But the matter of what weight you give to the hedge's presence is down to you as decision taker. You could take the view that, oh, well, it'll just come out as part of the build, or you could take the view that it'll stay there because either side want their privacy and it'll be looked after, or something in between. Those are the sort of parameters you're working in, and I've seen inspectors go either way. I've seen them just dismiss the existence of the hedge, or I've seen them put great weight on the hedge, so it's entirely down to you.
And sorry, in the answer to the final question, are there other similar properties in terms of their heights within the street scene? I think I would just refer you to the street scene plan, where I have corroborated that the number 1, the beaches, does measure 8.9 metres. That's on the basis of a planning permission that was granted on that property, which also included the height of the adjoining property, number 2, which was 8.5 metres. So there certainly is a variance in height within the street scene.
Can I just push that to confirm that this proposal, therefore, would be of a similar, within a matter of 0.1, of either of those two?
Well, it would be the same height as this element of the roof of number 1, the beaches, and very similar.
So if you're looking for a precedent in terms of roof height on beaches, you have one existing. Right. Any further questions? Could you go back to the slide before, please, Louise?
Oh, sorry.
It's the one that shows the 25-degree line, and I know you've made an assessment that you think that the impact on light is going to be not going to be significant. You've called it slight, actually. That elevation gives a slightly false impression of the 25-degree impact on the downstairs room because one of the properties is set back significantly from the other. So could you refer back to a plan that sort of shows, because that looks like from that room you're going to have a massive impact on the downstairs. But if you go to a plan, can we be satisfied? Can you zoom in a little bit on that? We can make it a bit bigger so we can see it. You can see and move it across if possible. So there you can see that 25-degree line, well, that's actually your 45-degree line,
That's
isn't it?
45,
Yeah.
But
Your 25-degree line is impacted by the side elevation of that applicant's house as it is currently, isn't it?
Yes.
So, yeah, okay. That's, I think, what we saw on the site visit. Although there will be some impact, but you're saying you think it will be slight.
Yes.
Okay. Any further questions or points of clarification? Clearly, it's been a difficult one. We're going to go into a discussion about this now. It's been difficult, in my view. You've got some discrepancies in terms of the plans, but I'm confident now that Louise has produced scale plans that we can rely upon. And we've heard that there's some impacts, but that the officers think they're slight. And we've also seen the street scene. We've got a precedent set of another property on the street scene that's already as high as the applicant's proposal for the ridge. So who would like to just kick off with their thoughts on this? Oh, so thank you, Trevor. Thank you. Who would like to comment on this? Who would like to start? It's a difficult one because we've got two neighbours and one, I can completely understand why one neighbour wants to extend their property and create more living space on what is actually quite a narrow house and create an extension. And the other neighbour's very, very worried about the impact on their property of this development. So, Councillor Parry.
yes, I mean, we've had two really difficult applications this evening. And I always find the smaller applications even harder than the larger scale developments. I did go on site. I'll be brutally honest, I don't like what's in front of me because of the bulk and the length of the single story, but I am struggling to find a serious planning material reason to refuse it. I don't like the fact there's a breach on the 25-degree rule, but there is already, as the officer has said, there is already a breach on the 25-degree rule. I was trying to look at the character of the street scene to see whether that would give us a material planning reason to refuse. But based on the varying types of properties, albeit only 8 within Beech's Walk, the differential in the heights of the ridge heights of the various houses and also their size and their bulk makes that particular argument difficult. So at this moment in time, I would like to see some of my other colleagues' comments. As I say, I don't like it. I've tried to look at various reasons to find a serious material planning reason to refuse it. I feel the single story extension is huge. And that in itself, I don't like the fact there are, I hope the 2 windows on that back onto the neighbour site will be obscured.
Okay,
having said that, I understand why the applicant is trying to provide additional accommodation. But so it's down to material planning reasons for me this evening.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think I'd agree with you actually. I'm like you. I can't see personally a material planning reason in terms of the street scene. And in order to find a material planning reason in terms of the impact on the light on number 5, one would have to go against the officer's assessment and say that you felt there was an unacceptable impact on light, and it would make it would to the detriment of number 5 significantly. I'm not completely clear on that myself. I would also add, I know you said it's a big, long, single-storey extension, but I think there are others in that locality that are very similar. Councillor Ballinger.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'm in a situation where I sympathise on both of both sides here, and both different circumstances. We've got a family obviously wanting to house the family within one house. And then you've got the other side where, concern about light being removed from, the conservatory area. For me, I've looked into this, the last time it came here closely, and obviously it's gone away and come back. Unfortunately, I didn't attend site visit because I was at work. However, just getting some clarifications from the planning officer today regarding, I think the ridge height was a concern of mine, but clarifying the fact that there's other dwellings within that road that have similar heights, number one. Also the light and the loss of light. Heard from the officer that there wouldn't be that much of a loss of light as I originally thought. So on that basis, I'm in a situation where I can't find a reason to go against the officer's recommendation to grant. So therefore, I am proposing to go with the officer's recommendation in accordance with the conditions 1 to 7.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ballinger. I've got a proposal. Who else would like to comment on their feelings on this? Councillor Fleming.
Similar thoughts to the others, but I think it's overbearing. I wouldn't want to live next door to it, to be brutally honest, in its current proposed form. I think it's overbearing. I think the long extension extends below the high end of the hedge. Is going to be visible from next door. And I had a good look at, and this is the existing building, I had a good look at how close it is to the separating fence as you come through from the front. And you look up, and the soffits are already overhanging into next doors anyway, but that's irrelevant to this. But at the same time, it just shows how close they are, these houses at this particular stage. And that 13-metre extension is only going to be 1.2 away from that fence. I just personally think it's too big and it's too overbearing. That's all I think.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I mean, your thoughts perfectly acceptable to have those. Councillor Harvey.
To be complete, it is contentious, and the contentious nature of it is illustrated by the fact that I went through the people who had objected, and clearly the people at number 5 have objected. On the other hand, the people next door on the other side at number 7 have put in a no objection response. So just to illustrate the point, it is contentious. Rather than take the line that it's big and it's over big, I'd take a look at the extension in relation to its plot. And in relation to its plot, it is large, undeniably, but I don't think it's disproportionately large given the size of the rest of the plot. The question of the light, clearly on its own, is a very contentious issue, but the infringement in the officer's assessment is slight, and the final factor that I take into account is the street scene. Although clearly the occupants of number 5 have a bigger concern than the occupants at number 7, all of the residents of that street can have a view on the street scene, and on that basis they can have a view on whether the proposed height is disproportionate in that particular street scene. and on the basis that at least one thinks that there's no grounds for objection on that grounds. And personally, I think it's very difficult to say to one householder, yes, you can have a building that's X number of feet or metres, but to another in the same street, you can't. So on the basis of what's in front of me and the recommendation of the officers, I can't find a substantial material planning reason upon which to refuse. So I would support a recommendation to accept the officer's recommendation.
Is that a seconding of
I will second.
the proposal? Thanks, Councillor Harvey. Okay, thank you for saying that. I think one of the difficulties here as well is that the nature of the building line, because some of the properties are set back, is making it more difficult. If they were in line, it would have less impact. But the 45-degree rule's already breached because the houses are staggered, which is making it more difficult. I agree, I think, with a lot of what you've said. I can't personally see a material planning reason to go against the professional officer's recommendation because they've weighed it all up. And if we were to go against it, the only thing I could suggest would be that we'd have to decide that in our assessment there was a more unacceptable impact on the light, because I don't think the street scene hangs together, and I think then the applicant would be within his rights, of course, to appeal a decision like that, should we make one, and they would look at the professional officer's recommendation. So it has been a difficult one. Who else would like to comment? You want to go to a vote? Okay, in which case, difficult as though it is, we have a proposal from Councillor Ballinger that this application, which is 2501653 FUL, should be approved, granted, subject to the conditions and the notes in the report, of which there are 7 and 2, in accordance with the recommendations of our professional planning officers, and that proposal has been seconded by Councillor Harvey. So, as always, we have to look at the evidence and apply the policies in these cases, so I should like to put that to a vote. All those in favour of Councillor Ballinger's proposal, please raise the card. 7 in favour and against, 1, and abstentions, none. In which case, I can say that Council resolve to grant 2501653 FUL, which is Grey Cedars 6 Beaches Walk, in accordance with the recommendations of the report and the conditions attached to that, the 7 conditions. Thank you all very much. And I thank you all for giving that a really thorough consideration. Can I thank also those that have come to speak on it tonight very much for your presentations, help us deliberate that and come to a conclusion. I'm sorry it took such a long time. If you were here earlier, you would have known that we went through a very difficult application at Kyneton as well. So I wish you all a safe journey home. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, members, before you disappear, I think I'm back on the agenda. Is it only any other business?
No urgent business.
There isn't any urgent business. So members, thank you very much indeed for your contributions this evening. Thank you.